Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto's future wife returned through time, and Ino, Hinata, Temari and Sakura chose him above all, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Beep, 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 beep. Honey, turn off the alarm. Ino groaned and rolled over to snuggle into her husband to drift off to sleep once more. Wait, that isn't the chime alarm Naruto got me for our anniversary. Ino's blue eyes snapped open seconds before she rolled out of bed and landed with a thump on the floor. Ow. Ino winced as she rubbed her posterior and reached out and slapped the alarm to silence. Looking around, she realized she was in her room, a room she hadn't lived in since after she made Chunin. It worked. She muttered in shock. Damn, fur ball was telling the truth, she said, standing up and dropping her blanket back on her bed. She frowned. Gah, I'm alone. I haven't been alone in years in bed. She looked around trying to figure out when there was a knock on the door. Ino dear, are you alright? Her mother's worried voice came through the door. Yeah mom, Ino said, trying to keep herself from rushing out the door and hugging her mother. Her parents had died when an Odo suicide bomber had entered their home and tried to get Ino. All because that stuck-up bastard wanted to piss Naruto off and get him to come out and fight. I'm fine, just rolled out of bed trying to get the alarm and got tangled in the sheets. Ino said. All right dear. Remember, you have your final genin exam today. Ino swallowed the lump in her throat. Thanks mom, she called out, and after hearing her mother's footsteps retreat back downstairs, Ino was in motion grabbing clothes and getting dressed. I need to see him. She stopped mid-wrapping of her legs. He won't be my Naruto. We aren't even friends yet. Ino let the tears fall at this thought. I won't let it turn out like it did. I promise, Naruto, you won't be alone anymore, she thought as she increased her speed and soon was rushing down the stairs and past the kitchen. Ino honey, breakfast, her mother called out. Not right now mom, I got to meet a friend before school. We'll get something on the way, love you bye. And she was out the door. Her parents shared a look over the kitchen table. Another diet? Inoichi asked, sipping his tea. Not that I know of, his wife said, looking at the toast and fruit slices her daughter ate in the morning after yelling about how she was trying to keep her figure. I don't like it when she does it for that Uchiha boy, Inoichi said. It's a phase dear. Remember when I was her age? I thought I would be with Wataru in Azuka. Inoichi snorted. The old hound, rest his soul, was a player in the day. Yeah, but he had 3 kids with Sume. And they were a better match, his wife Izumi said. Besides, I do enjoy a man that can plant a proper garden and not treat it like he was digging for bones. Both Yamanaka adults laughed. Ino will be fine dear, she said. I'm sure she'll find a nice boy that will treat her properly. Inoichi snorted. I'd rather she would hook up with either a Nara or an Akamaiki. He muttered, only to get brained by flying toast from his wife, who scowled. Ino will love who she loves. And if I find out you pushed her towards someone, you will be sleeping in the garden during the cold season. Inoichi winced as his wife cleared their daughter's plate and went to do the morning dishes. Man, Shika was right, women are troublesome. Across town, Shikaku Nara sneezed. Man, someone's talking about me, what a drag, he thought before he went to wake his son up for school. Ino raced the streets and cursed her smaller chakra reserves. I really didn't start to train properly until Asuma sensei died. She hurried down the early morning streets. If I know Naruto, and I do, he'll be it. Wait, this was, her thoughts raced to remember. Ino altered her course and found herself at the base of the Hokage monument moments later, panting. Damn, I've really got to get into shape, this sucks, she muttered, catching her breath. She looked around and smiled as she saw him dangling from a rope in front of the faces of the 4 Hokages. In front of the village, and he's not even being noticed, and he's wearing blinding orange. And laughing like a loon. She smiled as she watched the blonde work, laughing as she remembered he proposed to her by painting it on the Hokage monument as well. He's a goof, a silly goof, but he's mine and I'm not going to wait as long or allow anyone to harm him anymore. Rushing up the path, she got to the top and peeked over the edge as he was working on the face of the 3rd Hokage. Ino thought about what she was going to say, but smiled as she thought it would be fun. What are you doing, you baka? Ino yelled the last and had to stop herself from laughing as Naruto panicked and tried to look around and in the process dropped his paint cans, and got tangled in the rope. He was now hanging upside down with the rope knotted around his left ankle and he swung back and forth. He looked up and saw Ino looking down over the edge at him smiling. Hello Ino-chan. He said and she could see the utter confusion on his face. She'd never spoken to him, even while Sakura was ranting at him. Ino smiled softly. Time to change this. Ino thought. You know you could do better than this. She said and his look of confusion made her wish she could kiss him right now. You're better than you pretend, Naruto. She said and started pulling him up, her muscles screaming at her about what she was doing. I really need to work out. She thought. Once he was up atop the heads of the Hokage, Ino looked at him and had to resist the urge to run her fingers through that sun-kissed blonde hair. She'd found it relaxing when they talked, but he wasn't hers. Not yet, but soon. She thought. Come on, let's get out of here. I'll buy you 2 bowls, and only 2 bowls of ramen while we talk. She wanted to laugh and kiss him at the happy then confused expression he wore. I swear you will have a better life. And I'm going to get you where you were after we started dating a lot sooner. After all, a woman's touch can do wonders for a man. Ino sat next to him at Ichiraku's ramen and slowly ate her bowl of vegetable beef ramen while Naruto slurped down his first bowl of miso. Slow down and enjoy the flavors, Naruto. She said. No one's going to take it away from you. He paused and she smiled seeing he had a noodle on his cheek when he turned to look at her. She took a napkin and wiped it off with a smile. Why are you doing this, Ino-chan? What do you want from me? Naruto asked confused, but she noted he had slowed down and was chewing his ramen, which she noted mentally with a smile and surprised the cook and his daughter to no end. I can't help you get Sasuke and you know Sakura-chan won't give me the time of day. Naruto said and Ino saw the look on his face. Why do you want to go out with Sakura so much? Ino asked suddenly. Naruto froze mid-bite, lowering his chopsticks. Why do you keep putting on a mask? She continued. I don't know what you're talking about, and Sakura-chan is rude, abuses you, shows you no respect whatsoever. Ino says, cutting him off. She doesn't acknowledge you, Naruto. She does. No, she doesn't. At best she sees you as an annoyance. She treats you like her personal punching bag whenever she feels annoyed, even if you aren't around. She saw his head lower. But I acknowledge you, Naruto Uzumaki. I believe you will become Hokage, again she thought, and I believe you will be the best ninja ever in Konoha. I see you as someone special, someone I want to know, and who I want to get to know me, the real me. She reached out and touched his arm, causing him to look up at her. I want to be your friend, Naruto. I want you to be mine. I want to see you become the man that I can see you becoming. Why? Naruto asked, giving her his full attention. Ino smiled. I had a dream the other night. She said, looking at him for a moment. I didn't like who I was pretending to be. I hated how I treated you with indifference and I want to change it now. I don't want what I said to you or treated you be me. I want to know you and I want my life filled with laughter and fun. You shine so brightly, Naruto. I want to be warm in your smile. She could see he understood, but she saw the mask come up. What? Don't do that, she said. Please, no masks. Naruto's eyes winced as she saw past his facade. I want there to be truth and honesty between us, Naruto. Like it was once we dated. You made my life so bright and warm. Ino thought. As you wish, Ino-chan. He said. As you wish, I love you. 3 simple words, that spoke so much between us. Words you used whenever we were surrounded by the ignorant villagers. I will not lose you, or waste time getting to know you this time. Ino thought, giving him an encouraging smile. Now, I know we have to get to class, but after school, you and I are going shopping for proper clothes for you. What? Why? Naruto asked. Naruto, I know how the shops treat you. We're getting you proper clothes, and we're going to train together. I need to get in shape and training is always better with someone to help you. The pair of blondes shared ramen, Ino even feeding Naruto some her vegetables after he put up a fight, but in the end she got her way. They realized they were going to be late and rushed off. Tsuki and his daughter Ayame watched them go. I like that girl, the ramen chef said. Ayame watched the blondes vanish around a corner and smiled. She's good for him. The cook and his daughter were already planning on helping Ino get the blonde of her dreams. Young love needs a push every now and then. Chuki muttered as he cleaned the bowls. But she's going to have to let him eat more ramen. 2 bowls won't last him long. Ayame smiled, remembering the sounds Naruto's stomach could make when it was empty. I hope she's ready to deal with that. They went back to work knowing the lunch crowd would be coming in several hours. Ha! I win! Sakura Haruno yelled, entering the classroom. She'd raced all the way here and was surprised when she never saw Ino the whole way, and seeing the empty spot next to Sasuke Uchiha. If you think so, forehead. A voice said, and Sakura looked around to find Ino sitting next to. What the hell are you sitting next to Naruto for, Ino pig? Sakura blinked, thinking her eyes were playing tricks on her. Did you lose a bet? Ino scowled. No. I'm sitting next to my friend. You can sit next to emo ass. Hell, date the needle for all I care. Many eyes in the room widened. Naruto next to her was trying to stifle his laughter by trying to fit his fist into his mouth. Ino looked at Naruto and smiled. Now, when the time comes, remember. What's the deal, Ino pig? Sakura shrieked, and the blondes turned to see Sakura standing before their desk with her hands on her hips. Having a conversation. Go sit by the Uchiha, for all the good it will do you. And Ino turned back towards Naruto, leaving a stunned Sakura standing there. The rest of the class was still in shock. Sasuke himself was sitting facing forward, his eye twitching at the insults that had been thrown his way. Now, you got it? Ino asked as Naruto mimicked the hand seals. Yeah, are you sure? Trust me, Naruto-kun. The problem you've had is that you have way too much chakra and you overload your jutsus. This will help, I promise. If it doesn't, I'll buy you ramen for a month. Naruto's eyes widened. Ino-chan. I'm serious. She then got a mischievous look in her eyes. And when I'm proven right, you will go on a date with me tonight. Gasps filled the classroom as the Sasuke fan club were shocked that one of Sasuke's biggest supporters was planning on a date with the dead last of the class, one that almost all of them thought of as a menace. One pair of pale lavender eyes widened in surprise across the room at what was happening. Sakura was still standing before the pair of blondes in shock at what she was hearing. Ino, what are you doing? She asked. Well, shrieked in shock. Asking someone I like out on a date. But unlike the limp Uchiha, Naruto has personality, and I bet it will be an awesome time. Ino said, then looked at her. You're still here, Sakura. Why aren't you sitting by your precious Uchiha? Naruto looked at Sakura, then back at Ino. The Yamanaka heiress knew he was confused. Oh, Naruto-kun, there is so much I want to say to you. And much of what I want to do to you, we're too damn young for. Turning back to Naruto, she decided her conversation was done with the pink-haired girl who was still trying to process what she just heard. She patted Naruto's hand. You'll pass, she said with a smile as the bell sounded. Iruka walked in, followed by Mizuki. Ino's eyes narrowed. It had been a year after she started dating Naruto that he finally told her how he became a genin. And you won't be causing my Naruto-kun any grief, you bastard. She thought as Iruka called the class to order, surprised how quiet it was. Sakura, take your seat please. Iruka called out. Sakura, still stunned about the recent events, dropped into a seat. It wouldn't be until lunch that she realized that she sat away from Sasuke Uchiha. Now then, as you know, today is your finals to see if each of you can become a genin of Konoha. The written test wasn't that bad once Ino pointed out to Iruka that Naruto's test paper had a genjutsu on it, surprising the teachers as well as the blonde that someone would stick up for him in class. Iruka gave him a fresh one, and Ino saw Mizuki didn't look happy. People like you are the reason Naruto failed 2 other times and why his grades are so poor. I'm going to fix what you've done and he's going to show you all. Ino thought with a mental smirk as she handed in her own test, then returned to her seat next to Naruto. She spent the rest of the morning watching Naruto as he passed the obstacle course with ease. That's my man, yeah. She thought with pride, and ignored the looks from Sakura as she clapped when Naruto had the best time. Her own time was about middle of the pack. Well, at least I finished it this time, unlike my first time through. I fell into the water and spent the whole time whining about how my dress and hair were ruined. Gah, how did I ever live as long as I did back then? She'd seen Sakura fall earlier, and Hinata made it, but it took her longer than most as she was shorter than most of the other girls in class. Ino was next to Naruto during the target test. Keep calm and remember to line up your shots. Think of it as targets for your pranks. She whispered into his ear. Ino-chan. He asked, looking at her. No more masks, Naruto. Don't hold back. For me, please. The blonde looked at her and nodded as he went after the Uchiha who had a smug look on his face, getting the best score. Ino clapped and yelled, "Come on, Naruto, you can do it." Getting her many strange looks from the rest of the class. She ignored them. "Come on, honey, you are better than that arrogant bastard. Show them all." She smiled as he hit the stationary targets with ease, each one dead center. Clapping her hands after he hit all 10, she was watching as he went for the moving targets and scowled when Mizuki swung one of the rope targets harder and faster than anyone else, but it turned to a smirk when Naruto hit the target dead center between the eyes. "Take that, you bastard," she thought with a bit of vindictiveness to the horrible teacher. "Ino, what's going on with you?" Sakura asked, stepping in front of the blonde and blocking her view of Naruto as he went into the target range with mobile and pop-up targets. "Out of the way, forehead," she said as moved around the other girl to watch. "Why are you so interested in that loser all of a sudden?" Sakura asked as Ino watched him move down the range using shuriken and kunai with a practiced ease. "He's special to me," Ino said. "I grew up and realized that the emotionless asshole isn't what I want in my life." "Why Naruto?" Sakura asked. "Why not?" Ino fired back as she watched him finish the range and looked at his score. "That's right, baby. Perfect. Yada. I mean, he's loud, dresses badly and has no skill, he's dead last." Sakura went on, and Ino scowled at her. "Naruto may be loud, but he's also kind, considerate and caring. As for his clothes, that isn't his fault, that's all the idiots sell him. As for dead last, I think you better look at the score's forehead. Naruto has outperformed the Uchiha in every way." With that, Ino walked past her and walked up to Naruto, and to the surprise of everyone, including the said blonde, hugged him. "You did great, Naruto-kun," she said. "You're up, Ino," Iruka called out. "Be right back," she said and skipped towards the targets. Ino smiled. She had the third best score at the kunai and shuriken test. "At least all my skills aren't totally crap again. I'll need to work on my physical fitness and chakra reserves, but this is good," Ino thought, as she walked with Naruto. Said blonde kept giving her strange looks out of the corner of his eye. "Up next we have sparring with Mizuki," Iruka announced once everyone reached the sparring platform. Ino pulled Naruto with her to a tree and sat down. Naruto was surprised when she pulled his arm around her and she leaned into him. "I'm not going to do too well here," Naruto said. Ino sighed. There was nothing she could do right now to fix Naruto's taijutsu, but she had an idea. "Lee and Guy are at training ground 9. I wonder if I can get them to help Naruto and myself this early." "Just try your best, Naruto-kun," Ino said. "Mizuki is a chunin after all, and your other scores will compensate. I'm sure you're better than Sakura. She can perform the book work fine, but in the field it's different." They sat in silence and Naruto wasn't sure how to deal with the blonde next to him. When he woke up this morning, he never would have imagined this. Ino tried to think of a way to get Naruto to win against Mizuki. Sasuke was doing well, but he was using his clan's personal style instead of the academy basic style. Time. Iruka called and Mizuki congratulated Sasuke loudly for going the full 5 minutes. "Bastard took it easy on Sasuke," Ino thought with a growl. She watched as Naruto was called up and whispered to him, "Good luck." It was then that if she remembered this right, Mizuki was about to crush Naruto, as the chunin went all out the moment. "Ew. Gross." Sakura screamed when Akamaru peed on the other side of the tree she was leaning against, thus getting the class's and Iruka's attention. Ino didn't look, her scowl deepening as she watched Mizuki take Naruto down with an advanced grapple hold that was taught to chunin for crowd control. Iruka turned back seeing Naruto being held down and counted the 3 beats, awarding Mizuki the win. "Smug bastard. If Iruka had seen you use that move to take Naruto down, he would ream you out. Instead you adjust your grip and make it look like a basic hold and make Naruto look bad to the class and Iruka-sensei." She hissed mentally. "If I had a larger chakra supply, I would have used one of the possession jutsus and show you how it feels to be dominated and let Naruto win." Ino patted Naruto's shoulder, but winced when he pulled away roughly. "Ino, What? She spun about, snarling, only to realize that she had snarled at Iruka. Sorry, sensei, she said, looking down. It's your turn, Ino, Iruka said. Moving to stand before Mizuki, she scowled at him when he gave her a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Ino, I won't hurt you. Just try your best. The nerve, Ino mentally hissed. You want my best, asshole? Fine. When Iruka called to begin, Ino attacked with a flurry of punches and kicks from the basic taijutsu taught at the academy. I wish I could unveil the style Naruto and Guy and Lee taught me, but if I broke out in capoeira that Guy and Lee taught me, or Naruto's family personal style, I'd be seeing Ibiki faster than my dear husband eats Ichiraku ramen. Ino was thus holding back and using the academy style, which was making her grind her teeth in frustration as Mizuki knew the style and blocked it all. And after 3 minutes he finally tagged her and Iruka called time. Ignoring everyone, Ino sought out Naruto. Damn it. Come on, sweetie, look at me. She willed, but the blonde that had been and she prayed to Kami would be her husband again, was sulking on the far side of the tree. He'd not even been watching. Of course not, stupid. He just had the worst spar out of the entire class, where everyone witnessed his being counted down in less than 9 seconds. And now we go back to class where he will need to make 3 bunshin to pass. Ino prayed he got the seals she showed him earlier. Kami, please let him remember what I told him and get the cage bunshin on his first try. She watched as he shuffled back towards the classroom after Irake released them all for lunch, reminding them all to come back in time for the final part of their exam. Ino was going to try and catch up to Naruto, when she found her way blocked by Sakura and several other nameless skanks, Ino's personal name for them, as they made up the Sasuke Uchiha fan club. What do you want, forehead? Ino asked, annoyed at being denied her time with her fellow blonde. Damn it, Naruto thought. Why can't I get that right? The whisker-marked blonde muttered aloud. Iruka released them for lunch break and then to report to the classroom for the final test. I did better on the other parts, but it's not fair that I have no one to learn taijutsu with. No clan scrolls to study, no one to correct me, the teachers never take the time to. I'm just the orphan that no one wants and everyone despises. He muttered under his breath, hands in his pockets, shoulders slumped as he walked, kicking a stone. And what's up with that Ino girl? She's never said more than 5 words to me before, and yet this morning she's talking to me like we've been friends forever, touching me, and she knows about the masks I wear to hide. He slumped against the wall of the building in the shade, his blue eyes searching and finding her. Easy enough being the only 2 blondes in school. Sorta like finding Sakura and her pink hair. He thought with a momentary hint of amusement. He found her with said pink-haired Sakura and a group of other girls. That's it. It's some kind of prank to get Sasuke to notice her. Has to be. Naruto thought, watching her talk with Sakura. Looks like they're talking about Sasuke again. He thought, seeing both girls waving their arms about and talking heatedly. I bet those hand signs Ino showed me was something to embarrass me. We'll screw that. I'm onto you now, Ino. I won't be used by you so you can brag to Sasuke how you messed with me. Decision made. Naruto ignored the clenching of his gut at the decision, passing it off as hunger pangs. He turned away and slipped into the school via a window in an unused classroom, missing the be-all and all of bitch slaps as Ino laid out Sakura and the other fangirls scatter like pigeons in the park when Tora, the Fire Lord's wife's cat, came too close. Slap. Don't you ever say anything like that about Naruto-kun again, Sakura, or I will kick you so damn hard you'll be wiping your huge forehead when you go to the bathroom. Ino snarled. Clear. Sakura, holding her reddening cheek, nodded her head rapidly, her eyes wide in shock that Ino had slapped her, more so that she slapped her in defense of Naruto. Ino glared at the other girls. Do any of you pathetic bitches have anything to say? They scattered. Ino looked down at Sakura. You broke off our friendship 3 years ago because of a rumor that someone else told you that I liked Sasuke. Now here is the truth, Sakura, that you never let me say when you broke our friendship and walked away. Try to process it in that oversized cranium you have. I never wanted Sasuke. I played this stupid game because it connected us. It gave you confidence and a rival that would push you. I decided this morning that it's time to leave that childish game behind and focus on someone that I knew who would be caring, and treat me as his whole world. I want my life in the sun. Ino looked at her friend. Come on, Sakura, grow up. Be the woman I know. This is a trick. Sakura said finally. You're trying to get me off guard, to get Sasuke to notice you. You're just using Naruto to do it, to make Sasuke jealous. Well, it won't work. Ino sighed. Sakura didn't grow up last time until after the Uchiha left to get power from Orochimaru and Naruto left for his training journey with Jiraiya-sama for 3 years. Ino thought sadly. I was hoping I could get my friend back sooner. It's no game, Sakura. If you want Sasuke, he's all yours. But you'll only end up with a broken heart. She thought. Because I want Naruto. Scratch that. I need Naruto more than I need air. I want my husband back. And when we're older, I'll get my precious Saru back. Ino closed her eyes to keep the tears back as she thought of baby boy. Kyuubi swore I could change things, but I'm not strong enough right now. I need Naruto's help to make this work. Ino ached for her husband's touch, for his warm hugs, his bright laughter, his loving caresses. Kami I would kill for his teasing grin right now, or those special looks he gave me from those warm, caring eyes. Kami I'd murder the Uchiha and the civilian council just for one of his toe-curling kisses. Ino. Sakura on the ground asked when she saw the flash of pain in the blonde's eyes before she closed them. Did that idiot Naruto do something to her? The pink-haired girl wondered. Is he forcing himself on her? Yeah, that's it. Inner Sakura said in total agreement. That's got to be it. I mean, who would choose that baka when there is Sasuke-kun? Cha. You ain't whistling in the wind there. Izzy, Inner Sakura declared. The bell sounded indicating the lunch period was over. Both girls cursed for similar, yet different reasons. Damn it. I didn't get to watch Sasuke-kun eat this time. Sakura whined. Damn it. I wanted to make sure Naruto-kun was okay and talk with him. Ino thought as she headed back towards the building, ignoring Sakura who had gotten up and was slowly following behind her. I will save you from that idiot Ino. Whatever he's forcing you with, I'll save you and you can then return as my rival for Sasuke-kun's affections, which I'll win of course. Cha. I'm the best. Izzy chimed from the depths of Sakura's psyche. Ino looked around the classroom as she entered, and was sad to see that Naruto hadn't returned. Where is he? She thought, taking her seat. She looked around until the second bell sounded and still no Naruto. Mizuki came in a huge grin on his face that didn't calm Ino's nerves as he'd come out of the test room where they'd take their final part of their genin exam. Moments later he was followed out by dejected-looking Naruto, who headed for the door, and finally a sad-looking Iruka came out. He watched the orange-wearing blonde leave, failing to make a proper bunshin. Sadly his test score was at the bottom and his taijutsu time messed up his score, which failed him. Iruka-sensei, where's Naruto going? Ino asked. Home. His test is done. Iruka said. Now when we call your name. Ino looked out the window shattered. Did he try the cage bunshin and fail? What happened in there? Ino thought long and hard over what had happened that she didn't hear Iruka call her name, and it took Sakura throwing a wad of paper at her to shock her out of her thoughts. Naruto-kun. Ino looked high and low for a certain male blonde. She was starting to panic as he wasn't at any of his usual haunts. She'd slipped out of class and had seen Mizuki talking to him near the wall, but by the time she got there Naruto was gone. Oh, you are so sleeping on the couch when I find you. Ino thought, no hesitation in her thoughts of the blonde and his place in her life. I swear, men are such babies. Something goes wrong and they go off and sulk. Ah, but you women sulk by consuming mass quantities of ice cream and chocolate. She remembered Naruto teasing her once when they first started going out. Shaking her head she stopped in the middle of the street. Think Ino. What did Naruto do this day? She muttered to herself. It took nearly 9 months of dating before he confided in me how he became a genin. Now, what did he do? Snapping her fingers she took to the rooftops. I better catch him before it's too late. Ino increased her pace. Her legs were burning and she knew they'd cramp later. Kami. I can't believe I was so lazy when I was this age. She thought. Ino reached the Hokage's office in time to see the Sandaime getting to his feet and stuffing tissue up his nose. Damn it. I just missed him. Now where was it he said he went to? Of course. Ino leapt away. The Hokage turned sensing someone, but seeing no one there called for several ninja. Ino found him no problem near the abandoned shack outside the walls. She paused watching as he worked on the cage bunshin. Her eyes softened as she watched him train himself into the ground. Oh sweetie. She watched for 2 hours while he plowed himself into the ground mastering the jutsu, the explosions from failed attempts that sent him crashing into trees hard enough that he would be a massive bruise if he was normal. I can't do anything right now but watch. I wanted to tell him about the Kyuubi, but some events are going to happen it seems. The best I can do is to be here for him for the fallout. Another 30 minutes passed before Iruka showed up. Ino watched as the teacher confronted her honey. She smiled at Naruto's joy at learning the technique and how Mizuki told him he would become a genin for doing so. Poisoning that bastard won't be enough. Ino thought darkly, as she watched Iruka shove Naruto out of the way. Show time. She thought watching as Iruka took the shuriken barrage meant for Naruto. Mizuki came out sneering. Ino barely restrained herself from attacking right there. That bastard has done a lot of damage to Naruto. I won't settle for a beating him within an inch of his life. I'm going to make him into a vegetable. Ino watched the events unfold. Mizuki speaking about the Kyuubi, taunting Naruto telling him he was the Kyuubi. You sick son of a bitch. She lost her kid because a man wearing a Konoha headband killed them in their sleep. She came here to get answers, but was attacked without cause. Ino thought having been shown the Kyuubi's memories when she did a mind link after she found out Naruto housed the nine-tailed fox. She watched as Mizuki tossed a windmill shuriken and Iruka take it in the back as he saved Naruto from being killed. I'd seen it as a memory, but seeing it in real life, Ino thought as she bit her lip to keep from making a sound. She watched as Naruto escaped and Mizuki give pursuit. She watched a moment longer as Iruka stood and ripped the weapon out of his back before using a transformation jutsu to look like Naruto and leap away. Get a move on Ino. Naruto's going to need you really soon. She thought and leapt after the Chunin. Ino caught up to them in time to see Iruka transform back and lay on the ground as Mizuki threatened to kill him. Damn you Mizuki. She thought as she heard him gloat about how alike he and Naruto were. How Naruto was the Kyuubi and how he was a monster biding its time to kill them all. She gasped when Iruka agreed. What? Why are you saying this Iruka-sensei? I thought you thought of Naruto as a younger brother, why? Then Iruka told Mizuki that Naruto wasn't the Kyuubi and Ino felt tears slip from her eyes as the wounded academy instructor said that while Naruto wasn't the best student, he gave it his all and tried hard, despite everyone's attempts to keep him down. She watched as said blonde blocked the windmill shuriken and stood there with the forbidden scroll. I won't let you harm Iruka-sensei. Her honey snarled. Ino smiled at this. This was her Naruto. Not the mask-wearing Naruto, but the one who would stand tall against all odds and triumph to protect his friends and family. She watched Mizuki's posture and threatened Naruto. She then watched as Naruto made 1,000 kage bunshin and proceed to beat the hell out of Mizuki. Ino felt tears come to her eyes as Iruka put his Hitaiate on Naruto's head and the blonde hugged the injured Chunin yelling for all to hear about his passing. Making a decision she stepped out. You did it Whiskers. Ino. Iruka said seeing her. Naruto looked at her and she saw his frown. What do you want? He asked, his tone and posture changing, surprising both her and Iruka. Naruto. No Iruka-sensei. Naruto and I need to talk. I know he's not the Kyuubi. You heard? Iruka asked. Ino nodded. I need to talk with Naruto alone, please. She said the last part looking at the blonde. Iruka coughed. How about we return the scroll to the Hokage and allow the nice Anbu to take Mizuki prisoner? The two genin looked back and saw 3 masked Anbu in the trees. Fine. Naruto said and shouldered the scroll, his eyes not leaving Ino. We'll talk to the old man. Then I'll buy you both ramen. Iruka said. Ino smiled seeing Naruto shoot the instructor a grin, before said blonde's eyes returned to her. She knew that look. He's confused, he wants answers and he's not going to be nice until he gets them. Ino sighed and nodded. Please love, I'll tell you everything, just be patient. Sigh, and that's one thing you didn't develop much of until your trip with Jiraiya, maybe I can move that along a bit. She fell into step next to Naruto who kept shooting her looks out of the corner of his eye as they walked, Iruka's pace rather slow with all his wounds. The talk with the Hokage went well. He wasn't mad at Naruto as Mizuki was a superior and he did as he had been told by someone in authority. The Hokage told both blondes that they couldn't tell anyone else about the Kyuubi, as he went on to tell some of the history. Ino was not thrilled that the old man didn't tell Naruto about his parents. It's not fair. Well, I'll fix that when we talk. Naruto knowing his family hurts no one. You took that secret to your grave and it was Lady Tsunade who with Kakashi's aid finally told Naruto who his family was. Not this time Lord Hokage. Now Ino, I understand you've been trailing Naruto. The Hokage said. Yes sir. She said. Then sighed and went on to tell the Hokage the story she'd told to Sakura earlier. I think Naruto's special. Just because he holds the Kyuubi means very little. Naruto was looking right at her. Why did you always chase after Sasuke then? He asked. Ino winced. Sakura needed to be pushed along. She needed a rival. I realized, hopefully not too late, that I could have let you slip away and, I want you as my friend Naruto, and a whole lot more. Ino thought, physically aching for her husband on so many levels. The Hokage lit his pipe. I must say you two in your finals have done better than your previous records indicate. He puffed on his pipe. And I have an idea. The teams were nearly complete, but Choji Akamaiki declined a position on a team and entered the village militia. Ino looked at the old man. What the hell? That never happened. Thus I am putting Naruto on squad 10. It will be official Friday with the announcement. You both will be on the same team. Ino looked dazed. That's completely different. She smiled at the Hokage, then surprising Naruto hugged him. She ignored his wide-eyed look he gave the Hokage and Iruka, who chuckled. The Hokage and Iruka explained their test scores and Ino smiled, understanding how this happened. Her score was better and Naruto wasn't dead last with the recent bonus points for beating Mizuki. They talked more about the security of keeping the Kyuubi secret and then they were dismissed, Iruka begging off for the hospital and promising to buy lunch tomorrow instead. Leaving Ino and Naruto alone. The two blondes walked the darkened streets of Konoha. It was Naruto who finally broke the silence. How do you know the seals for the Kage Bunshin? They were the seals you showed me earlier. Naruto said. Did you try they to pass the test? Ino asked instead of answering. No. I thought you were trying to make me look stupid to impress Sasuke. Ino stopped him and spun around so she was in front of him, her hands clutching his. Naruto. Never think that again. Please. I'll tell you everything. She closed her eyes. Let's get to your apartment. She took his hand and walked with him. Ino-chan. He asked. We'll talk inside, but please Naruto, don't interrupt until I finish. Ino said and he could hear a tremor in her voice. He nodded and they arrived at his place. Ino growled at the graffiti on the door and walls. Idiots. She hissed as Naruto disabled the traps and escorted her in. She sat on the ratty sofa. Something to drink? Naruto asked. I don't have much, but. Water is fine Naruto-kun. She said. She looked around and it had been years since she'd seen this place. We torched it after we bought our place near the lake. She took the bottled water and Naruto sat across from her on a chair. You need to know. Everything I'm about to tell you is the truth. Ino began. I am Ino Uzumaki Namikaze. Wife to a betrayed and murdered husband, mother to a murdered son. I'm 33 years old. I was happily married to you Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and mother to 9-year-old Saru Uzumaki Namikaze. Ino saw his eyes look at her in disbelief. I witnessed a former ninja of Konoha betray us, kill you and our son, releasing the Kyuubi, who slaughtered him, and then seeing me weeping over your body and that of our sons made me an offer. I could come back here and change things so that it didn't happen, to make sure you had a better life, and I agreed. I wanted more time with you, to fall in love with you sooner. 17 years wasn't more than enough. Ino ripped the wrapper off of the bottle and started to shred it, a habit she could never get rid of. When she was nervous she would shred things. Naruto had always gotten her paper to shred when they were married. I remember he gave me the old bills after they were paid. Ino thought, with a hint of sadness and a watery mental smile. I woke up this morning in the body of my 13-year-old self, and I know I pushed too hard, too fast, but, I love you Naruto. I was irrational I know, but you are my husband. I want you back. I don't want the years be wasted again. Naruto said nothing, but looked at her. Please don't think I'm crazy. I was as far as Ino got when Naruto was surrounded by red chakra, then it leapt out and engulfed her. Blackness consumed both teens. Sewer landscape. Naruto opened his eyes. Where the hell? He asked, seeing a sewer. We're in your mind. He turned to see Ino sitting up. You do this? He asked. No. I think the Kyuubi wished to speak with us. I was going to ask you to let me do a mind meld and share my memories with you in a bit as I was sort of rambling. Sort of. Naruto asked and Ino saw the smirk. Prat. She swatted his arm before looping her own around it. Well, I guess we're off to find the Kyuubi. The wonderful Kyuubi of Konoha. Ino smirked as she remembered Naruto telling her and getting to watch an old movie called The Wizard of Oz when she'd been sick. Sadly, no yellow brick road. She said. Naruto shrugged and the pair walked on. How the hell do we know we're going the right way? All ways lead here, Kit. Bring your mate. We've got to talk. Came a rough sounding voice from the depths beyond. What the hell? Kyuubi. Ino said, recognizing the voice of the giant fox that had sent her back in time. They walked what seemed like forever. During this time, Ino explained why his psyche looked like this and how she would help him clean it up. I won't allow you to be abused no more, Naruto. She said as they walked. Why? I mean, you say I'm your husband in the future, but that could change. You could be with Sasuke tomorrow and, she covered his mouth with her hand. I won't. You and I are bound together forever and always. You are mine, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I am yours. Sappy. Try and get into each other's pants later. Get in here. A voice sounded irritated. Ino rolled her eyes. Ignore her. She woke up cranky, I think. Naruto looked at Ino wide-eyed as they finally entered a huge chamber with massive bars with a seal. Kyuubi, we're here, Ino said. Naruto stopped, seeing a pair of massive eyes open in the darkness. So this is my container. I am not impressed. Ino stomped her foot. Quit it. If we're going to survive and be happy, we all need to work together, and that means no terrorizing my husband. A snort from the darkness of the cage and Ino knew the fox was playing. Imagine my surprise waking up after 13 years of slumber with a deluge of memories rampaging their way into my mind. Imagine my surprise when I learned that I had over 30 more years of memories added. Naruto was looking at the cage and had wandered closer. His hand was reaching out to trace the seal on the door. Ino was watching when a massive paw came out of the darkness. Ino eeped, but watched as Naruto slapped it hard. Listen here, you stupid fox. I don't care who you are. Ino-chan says this is my body, my mind, and you are here under my sufferance. Oh. Big word, kid. Did you strain yourself using it? Kyuubi's voice came from the shadows. Ino growled. Do not mock him. It's your fault that. Before Ino could say anything, a white beam of light shot from the cage and struck Naruto in the chest. It then leapt from Naruto to Ino and struck her as well. 3 screams filled the sewerscape. Naruto blinked as he looked around. The whole place was filled with bubbles, each held memories. What the hell? We're sharing memories. The bubbles are passing through all 3 of us at the same time. Don't touch. Kyuubi said, and Naruto took a look at the 9-tailed fox that right now was the size of one of the Inuzuka's large dogs, with 9 tails. He studied the fox, the slender build, the features. You're a girl. A growl from the fox next to him told him that his observation was right. Your mate told you that before. You really are not quick on the uptake. He is, but he also enjoys pushing your buttons. Ino said, slipping around a memory bubble. We're going to have a hell of a headache when we wake up. Did you do this, girly? Kyuubi asked Ino. Ino shook her head. No. My family technique would share with me and Naruto, and it isn't like what hit us by your cage. Naruto meanwhile was looking at a purple-tinted memory bubble, and Ino saw him turn red and get blown back by a nosebleed. She peeked to see what had done it and smiled. Ah, our wedding night, she said with a fond smile. She looked at the twitching 13-year-old fondly. Bear with it, love. By morning you'll have all your memories and we can talk about the deal I made with Kyuubi. I can't believe I learned to like him. Kyuubi said as the memories continued to unlock in the fox's mind. Oh, sick. Is that what you humans consider? Oh my, well, the boy is gifted. Ino shook her head as the fox leered at the unconscious teen. Ino smiled, however, as some of the memories she carried of Naruto unlocked before passing to their original owner. Kyuubi gave me all our memories, and now they are passing to their owners, oh my. Ino's thought paused as she remembered the night Naruto proposed to her. She smiled fondly at the boy who was in as her whole world. I didn't know humans mated like that, you lucky vixen you. Kyuubi's giggles made Ino shake her head. Arrow fox. And to think my loving husband had you in his head all those years. Ino smiled at the deal she'd made with the Kyuubi from the future. And this one will honor it once she gets all her memories. If she can stop watching all those times Naruto and I made love, okay. That one wasn't love, that was pure hard sweaty. And that one, ooh, I remember that one as well. Giggles wheel, that was his birthday and the Hokage's desk was so inviting. I think Tsunade burned it the next morning. Ino smiled as she saw some of the memory bubbles the Kyuubi was watching and the shock on the female fox's face. Then the tears hit both females with the birth of little Saru Uzumaki Namikaze. The pride and joy of Naruto and Ino. Oh Kit. Kyuubi cried with the death of the pair's child at Sasuke's hands. I'll kill him myself. Kyuubi vowed, seeing the amalgamated Orochimaru Sasuke. No questions. No second chances. That bastard even looks at us wrong and I'll make sure the Uchiha name is burned from Konoha's history. Ino agreed. If things happen the same and the Uchiha betrays us, I won't allow him to live. He took too much from this village and from my family. Ino watched as Kyuubi again watched the birth of Saru, first from Naruto's perspective memories and then from Ino's own. Girl. Kyuubi called to her. Yes, Kyuubi. Ino said, walking up to the fox and crouching down next to her. My future self organized the memories. She knew. Ino Yamanaka Uzumaki Namikaze. I Kyuubi no Kitsune, the greatest of all the Biju, swear that you and your family will find the peace and prosperity you deserve, if it takes my passing to do so. Ino hugged the fox. Not your passing, Kyuubi, just your acceptance. Keep absorbing your memories. Your future self set it up where we got to see one another so we understood the whole picture. I know you saw Saru. It was one of the reasons your future self agreed to sacrifice herself to send me back. By the time he was born, you and Naruto came to terms. You saw our son as, well, I think grandchild, as you started to claim Naruto as your own kit. Ino looked at her husband as more memory bubbles entered his skull. It was also a condition that I give Naruto his memories, that includes his death. He will recall dying at the hands of Sasuke, while weeping over the body of our own child. Ino felt tears slip down her cheeks. Be there for him, girl. Time here is meaningless. Months can pass here, but only a moment in the real world can pass. Heal him. Make him whole. Kyuubi said before swallowing several memory bubbles. Ino watched as Kyuubi seemed to shake, and a tear slid down a fur-covered cheek. Oh Kami. Ino nodded before moving to cradle Naruto's head in her lap. She stroked his sun-kissed blonde hair. I agree to the deal. Kyuubi said and Ino nodded. I'll be waiting. Ino watched as the nine-tailed fox walked away and faded back into the cell. Looking down, she sighed. Please don't hate me, love. She whispered. I can never hate you, Haim. A croaking voice said and Ino saw a pair of blue eyes looking up at her filled with adoration, tenderness and absolute love. Ino sat curled next to Naruto. The mindscape was of the lake. She was running her fingers through his hair. She noted that the memory bubbles were coming closer and closer to where she and Kyuubi made their deal and sent her back. She held him as he assimilated memory after memory. She could hear Kyuubi's sobs every so often and knew that the female fox was in pain, but she could do nothing to comfort the fox, as she needed to be with Naruto. Forgive me, my love, she whispered, stroking his hair. I know this isn't fair to you, but. A hand covered her mouth. Shut up, Ino Haim. A hoarse voice said and she looked down into the pair of blue eyes. Naru-kun. She said softly, kissing his palm. I'm not mad at you. He said, looking up at her, his head in her lap. I'm sorry I failed you. He said, his voice breaking. You didn't fail me, love. We were betrayed and he killed Saru. Her own voice was filling with emotions. I'll kill him if he even looks like he's going to join that snake bastard again. Naruto said, looking up at his wife. She smiled at him. We're out of shape, love. 13. She saw him look down at himself and sigh. Ah, man. I'm scrawny and weak again. She watched him focus and sigh. And my control is back to non-existent. Great. He sighed and sat up with a groan as another bubble slipped into his mind. He looked at her for a moment. Ino was in his arms, hugging him and sobbing. Her babbling was rapid fire and constant, words running together. He held her, his hand rubbing up and down her back as he whispered softly to her that it would be different, that it would be better. What seemed like an eternity, Ino's cries slowed and she relished the hold her husband had on her. He rocked her in his lap, slowly humming. Kami, I am such a spaz. Ino said and Naruto chuckled, agreeing with her. She elbowed him. Hey, I'm agreeing with you. Naruto said and kissed her temple. You're not supposed to agree with me when I insult myself. Naruto smiled. This feels weird. What does? Ino asked. Being 13 again. I have all these memories and, he blushed. And what? Ino asked. Thoughts and desires. He buried his nose against her neck and sniffed. I want to take you to bed and stay there till the next morning making love to you like we did last week. I know. Ino said softly. I nearly kissed you when I saw you first thing. It was so hard not to hug you and tell you everything, but I knew that would send you running away thinking I was some insane Uchiha stalker. Naruto laughed. You were some insane Uchiha stalker. I'm not anymore. I'm Ino Uzumaki Namikaze. That's a name we can't use for a while. Naruto said. And, we shouldn't be around one another, it will raise questions. Hell no. I'll put up with being 13, but I am not going without you any further. Today without being held by you, was hell on earth for me. It's going to be hard enough waiting until we're legally old enough again to be remarried. Who says I want to marry you again? Naruto said with a grin, and he managed to catch her fist. See. Spousal abuse. Ino cut off whatever he was going to say by kissing him deeply. She smiled into his lips as he moaned. Are you sure you don't want to marry me again? She asked in a teasing voice. Well, looks like Shikamaru it is then. I think I could do better for him than Temari and Eek. Ino laughed as he pulled her down and kissed her. The two were lost in one another. Gag me with your mating rituals. The young couple pulled back a bit, but didn't separate. What the hell do you want now, furball? Naruto asked. We were busy. Ino said with a glare. Busy. You were probing her tonsils and she was squeezing your. The nine-tailed fox said, walking up and sitting down on its haunches. Do we have to do this now? Ino asked. Yes. Damn fox. Ino muttered as she sat up, pulling Naruto with her. Let's get this done. Sarutobi sat in his office. He'd been worried about Naruto and using the crystal ball followed the boy. He saw Ino Yamanaka with him and her words rocked him to the core. He'd nearly called Anbu when both teens were engulfed with red chakra, but considered to wait and see what was happening. The girl claims to be from the future. And she claimed to be Naruto's wife, and not only that, she knew about his family name, a name I wasn't going to tell him till he was older. He watched the crystal as neither teen moved. With a sigh he put the crystal aside and making a decision stood and shushined out of his office. The guards only will complicate things. Naruto and Ino awoke back in his apartment. The talk with the Kyuubi had left the male blonde thinking. Ino was nervous now that they were back in the waking world. She started to fidget, but his hand covered hers. It's okay, Ino-chan. He said. I'm just overwhelmed right now. I know who I am, and who I was, and who I could be. But, she asked. I'm scared. Of what? Both blondes shrieked and Naruto spun in the air and took up a very secure stance. Oh gee. He said. Don't do that. Lord Hokage. Ino said, her heart was pounding. Imagine my surprise when I was watching you, Naruto, to make sure you were okay, and I hear young Ino's confession of being your wife, and a mother of a child. Ino scowled. Spying Lord Hokage. The old man shrugged. I worry about him, and when someone shows interest in him, I worry that they might be out to harm him. The third Hokage said with a shrug. Ino nodded. She knew that Naruto treated the man like his grandfather, but she still thought the old man should have told Naruto about his family. Her husband hadn't known about them until he was 18, and in Ino's opinion it was far too long. Now that he has his complete memories, he knows, but I still hate the fact so much of the past was done for the greater good of the village, and Naruto was forced to suffer. He won't this time, but he has the memories. So now what? She asked the Hokage. You tell me what's going on, and we'll take it from there. The Hokage said, pulling his pipe. And please, leave nothing out, I like a good tale. Sarutobi's pipe hung limply in his hand as he looked at the blondes that sat across from him. I died, he mumbled. Oji-san, you missed the point. Naruto said, shaking his head. I heard you, it's just hearing your death described. Naruto snorted. I have mine in all its technicolor glory. Naruto said. Ino's hand tightened in his. So now what, Lord Hokage? Ino asked. I won't let things turn out the way they did, and I won't abandon Naruto. Sarutobi smiled at her as he pulled his pipe up after he shook off his shock. You're right, We need to make sure events don't turn out as they did. In that end, I am revising Team 7 and Team 10. The Hokage said. How? Both blondes asked at the same time. Leave that to me. You both have your full memories, you say? He asked, and they nodded. Then we'll need to get your bodies up into shape. He paused. Come to my office in the morning. I have an idea and something that will help you both. Naruto narrowed his eyes. The chamber. How did you know about? The third began, but Naruto snorted. Ba-chan showed it to me. She said I would need to know about things like that when I became the 6th Hokage. Sarutobi shook his head. I still can't believe Tsunade became Hokage. He muttered. Ba-chan did fine, as long as Shizune-chan was nudging her. Ino laughed. The real power behind the Hokage. So you know what the chamber does? Sarutobi asked. Yeah, never got to use it, but Ba-chan explained it to me. An hour in there is a year in hyper time. Sarutobi nodded. I used it once when I was younger. My father used it twice, once when he first became the 4th and once before the Kyuubi came, he used it to make the seal. Sarutobi winced. Yeah, I've got my memories, old man. I know who I am and who my family is. I did have the best intentions. I'd planned on tell you when you were 18. I know. I found the letter you wrote before the Sand Sound invasion. It was sealed with a blood seal and a time-release seal. I understood, Oji-san. I wasn't happy with you when I did find out. Ino snorted. You peed on his monument and ranted for over 2 hours. Sarutobi looked at the blonde he considered his grandson. You peed on me. Naruto shrugged. I was mad, and you weren't here to yell at anymore. Naruto looked at Ino. Hey, this means I get to train Konohamaru again. Ino groaned. You know my grandson? The Hokage asked. A hint of fear entered his voice. Yep. Originally I met him this coming Thursday when I hand in my ninja photo ID. I teach him a special technique, and after I became Jonin I took over training his team when Ebisu was killed. Sarutobi hated his inquisitive nature. And what technique did you teach my grandson? Ino covered her face and sighed, and Naruto grinned. Wait till Thursday and see, old man. I guarantee it's a cage killer, as your honorable grandson calls it. Ino sighed. If I didn't know the results of that technique, I swear, husband dear, I would make you sleep on the couch. Naruto looked at her and took her hand. But Ino love, you have to admit it works so well. She sighed. Sarutobi coughed. About your marriage. Ino's eyes narrowed on him, and the most powerful ninja in Konoha paused as he felt a potent wave of killing intent leveled at him. I must say that you are rather young. The Ki was becoming smothering. And, you'd need your family's permission. He watched his pipe crumple up as the Ki was becoming visible in the blonde's eyes. And, the smothering effect made him stop. Well, Naruto is the last of his respective clans, and if I announced his lineage now, he'd be forced to marry more than one. No. Ino's voice was icy. We refused that crap when we were older, and it's not going to happen now. Naruto put a hand on her shoulder and looked at the man he considered grandfather. What are you thinking, Oji-san? He asked. I talked to Ino's parents and set up a betrothal contract. Ino smiled at that. And I want it to state we can marry one another when we're 16. Sarutobi knew the pair before him more than likely were going to give him more gray hair, and their shared grins told him that the blondes were going to raise hell and enjoy it. This is so cool, Ino said as she looked around the hidden chamber in the Hokage's office. She stepped away from the hidden door, then went to the window and looked out. Naruto nodded. Ba-chan tried to explain the space-time thingamajig to me, but even if I live to be as old as Oji-san, I'll never understand it. The old man puffed on his pipe, his eyes twinkling at the young pair before him. You won't be able to use jutsus in there, but it can be used to build up your physical skills. He said. Naruto nodded. Ba-chan also used it to store her booze in while Shizune-chan looked high and low for it. Sarutobi shook his head. Tsunade is Hokage. That's almost as bad as Jiraiya. The third thought as he watched Ino go from the hidden chamber to the window and look out. He had to admit he'd done the same thing 40 years ago. Now, I'll stock it with food for a year, you'll both go in and train for 1 year. At which time, an hour will have passed here and I will release the seal. Ino was looking at the chamber again. What if you left us in there for several hours, and let us get into proper condition? Ino. Naruto warned. What? You can't tell me you like being 13 again. Come on, at least 3 hours. She gave him the puppy dog pout and Naruto winced knowing he'd never been able to say no to that look once Ino used it on him. Oji-san. He asked, unable to look away from the female who then in an act of total domination gave the same look to the Hokage, adding tears and a quivering bottom lip. You'd still be a genin. The old man said. Ino smiled. Yeah, but I'll be able to have with my husband and not feel weird doing it. Sarutobi slapped a palm to his face, while Naruto got a glazed look and Sarutobi watched as a trickle of blood dribbled down the 13-year-old boy's lip from his nose. Sarutobi paid the genin for delivering the food, and he watched as Naruto and Ino with cage buncheons moved the food to the chamber. He also watched as every time Ino passed by Naruto, she would pinch him and get him to jump. If she's in her 30s, hey, I knew you'd do alright when you got older, Naruto. The old man thought. He handed them a scroll. I thought you said we couldn't use jutsus in there. Naruto asked. Well, you can do chakra building exercises, like water walking, tree climbing and balancings. But this is the seals to open the chamber from the inside if I'm not back. There's an alarm in there that will sound when it's time. He gestured at the wall clock. Now, I'm trusting you both in there without a chaperone. Ino snorted. We're adults, Lord Hokage. What kind of trouble do you think we can get into? She asked innocently. With that thought, I have stocked items in the bathroom. Just because they're there, it doesn't mean that you should use them. Both blondes exchanged a look that Sarutobi knew from years of marriage to his own wife. Guess they are married. I almost pity the rest of the village. On second thought, give them hell you too. He thought. I'll see you in a couple hours then. He said. 3 years Oji-san. Naruto said, and then surprising them all he hugged the older man. Ino smiled. She knew that Naruto had always been hurt after the death of the third. In the short hours since giving Naruto his memories and talking with the Hokage, she saw a side of her husband that had been lost all those years before. Sure, he had a great relationship to Lady Tsunade, but the third, it will be different this time. He means that much to you, my love, he will live this time. Ino walked up and gave the old man a hug as well. Doesn't mean anything, you old pervert. She said, and he balked. I know for a fact you have one of those Ika books in the top right drawer under a fake bottom. Ino said, stepping back. How? Ino smirked and then looked at Naruto. Naruto told me one night while we were talking atop the Hokage monument. What? Why? He asked, looking at the blonde who shrugged and grinned. She asked me why I went up there and talked to the Hokages. Then I told her about how I knew more about the Hokages than anyone in Konoha. Sarutobi smiled at that. Naruto absorbed everything about the past Hokages, from what they ate to how they ran the village. He'd spent nights reading history and personal journals of the first and second Hokages as well as some of his own private thoughts. He'd read some of the fourth's private journal, but nothing that would have told Naruto about him being his son. And he let it slip what you used to do at night or early in the morning. Ino said. Go to your room, you scamps. The third said as he took hold of the door. Be careful, he said. We will. They chorused and the Hokage closed the door, just as his perimeter alarm sounded. He managed to sit down and pretend to be reading a report when the door banged open and Sakura Haruno came in. Lord Hokage. Lord Hokage. Ino Yamanaka's been kidnapped and I know who did it. The pink-haired girl said as she barged in, ignoring the secretary and the Anbu guard she'd stepped on coming in the door. And who might that be? He asked. Naruto Uzumaki. He's done something to her. She was all over him and she put down Sasuke and it's not right, so Naruto is forcing her to do whatever perversion it is he has her doing. Sarutobi sighed and wondered if it was too late to join the pair of blondes in the chamber for 3 hours and ignore the outside world. Now Sakura. There is nothing wrong with Ino and Naruto, and they are friends, more by the time this is done. And I'm sure there is nothing to worry about. Other than she's going to have older guys drooling after her. And I'm sure that she'll turn up. I sent her and Naruto on an errand for me, they should be back by the end of the day. He said and wondered how the girl could be so book smart, be so dense, as she went on for nearly 15 minutes about the greatness of the Uchiha and how the Hokage should recognize him. As his headache continued to build, he signaled for the Anbu to knock her out and drop her off at home. He sighed as his door was sealed once more and he looked over the roster for the genin teams. I couldn't do that to Naruto. And if I did, I have a feeling Ino would burn my book collection. He thought sadly as his hand slipped into his desk drawer and he pulled out a mint condition gold edition Ika Ika Volume 7. Babes May Cry. Oh yeah, Sweet Seraphim is one of the best. He thought. Hyper time. Ino smiled as they finished unpacking the last of the supplies. She turned and found Naruto missing. Now where did he run off to? She muttered. She walked around the house. It had 2 bedrooms, a large bathroom with a jacuzzi and a large shower and tub. She saw their things were in 2 separate rooms. Oh hell no, she muttered, grabbing her bag and moving it into Naruto's room. She went back and past the library and then outside to the training yard. She smiled seeing the obstacle course, large poles that were as tall as the Hokage monument, and targets of various shapes and sizes. She saw Naruto at the pond as he tried to perform water walking and fell in. She froze seeing him in just his boxers. Even this young he's got a damn fine body. She thought as she licked her lips. 3 more years Ino old girl. Just 3 years and you can do what you did the other night before that bastard killed him. Naruto climbed up on the bank and shook water from him. He spotted Ino. Hey, get your butt over here and train, time's wasting. Ino nodded and took a step before pausing. How about we work on physical conditioning first? Naruto paused and looked at her with a raised eyebrow. When I was running around looking for you before, I realized how out of shape my 13-year-old body was. She admitted. Like how about we set the schedule with physical workout in the morning, followed by target practice, taijutsu and then chakra exercises. Naruto thought about it and nodded. What would I do without you? He asked with a grin. Be stuck on a team with Sasuke and Sakura and be miserable until you're nearly 18 when a blonde-haired goddess enters your life and makes you a proper man. Ino said, tossing her ponytail over her shoulder. Naruto smiled as he inched closer, dripping wet. Miserable. Can't have that now, can we love? Ino, not realizing the danger, sniffed. Yeah, miserable, and scrawny. I mean you didn't fill out much until you came back 3 years from now, and even then that pervert you call Godfather and Sensei didn't really fix your skills. She screamed as Naruto picked her up. No. Put me down this instant. Don't you dare. She yelled as he had her over his shoulder. But Ino-hime, you look all heated up. It's your fault. I can't help I get flushed thinking about you. Naruto froze. Naruto? Ino asked, concern in her voice. Why you think of me like that, even now? He asked. Yeah, Ino said in a low voice. Naruto slipped her to her feet before him and she looked into his blue eyes. How can you, Ino? Look at me. I'm scrawny. I'm nothing like the man you married. She smiled as she touched his cheek. You are in all the ways that matter, and your body will be in no time, as will mine. She gestured to herself. I mean, look at me, no muscle, no stamina. And still the most beautiful kunoichi in the world. Naruto said, his voice low. They stood there for what seemed eternity looking in one another's eyes. Ino blinked and shook herself. We need to get busy. Time waits for no one. Naruto nodded. His thoughts of play were shelved for later. Sit-ups, push-ups and laps for now. There's a weight room around the side. Naruto said. He dropped to the ground and started push-ups. Ino sighed and went down and joined him. I hated these the first time Asuma-sensei had us do them. Wasn't until after his death that I got serious. Ino said as she found a rhythm with Naruto. After 20 her arms were already burning. Kami, I hate being out of shape. She huffed while Naruto meeting her eyes just kept going, but she saw the strain in his arms as he got near 60. Used to run out 1,000 of these no problem. He grunted. Now 100 looks so far away. They both agreed being 13 sucked. Ino balanced on her fingertips doing vertical push-ups. Looking across the training dojo she watched Naruto doing the same, just with his thumbs. The 2 years of training thus far had seen changes in both. Now 15 they both looked to be in peak physical condition, and Ino was finding it harder and harder to ignore the voice in the back of her head telling her to jump her husband. He's not mine again. Yet. But we promised the Hokage, and damn it, look at the sweat roll down. Ino's mind argued. She watched the shirtless Naruto, whose eyes were closed. Maybe I shouldn't have given him his memories and just jumped him. She mentally giggled at that, but with his memories, she found the past 2 years with him both wonderful and trying. I want my Naruto time, damn it. Ino mentally yelled. They'd shared a bed, but Naruto's iron will kept them from doing more than kissing and cuddling. He promised the Hokage, and Naruto will twist himself inside out to keep a promise. Ino sighed. It was one of the things she loved about him. But my fingers are getting tired and I'm really starting to hate cold showers so much. She mentally whined. Naruto was now 5'8". The fact there was no ramen in here had helped getting her to have him eat healthy. Mixed with the proper nutritional input and proper training, Naruto finally filled out. Ha! Take that, Jiraiya! Ino yelled in her mind. It didn't take a 3-year training trip and another 2 years after of hard work. Ino flipped to her feet, finishing her set, and went on to perform her stretches before going to the weight bench, her eyes drifting back to the young man she'd do anything for. It's not fair. One moment we're fine, like old times, and then he puts up a barrier and acts like we're 15 again. Damn it, the body is 15, but the mind is in its 30s. Even in her mind, Ino wouldn't admit her real age. It was something Naruto always teased her about. When they became 21, Naruto had laughed and the following year had gotten the same cake and told her she would always be 21. It was a touching thing he'd done every year they'd been together until his death. Is that it? Till death do us part. He died. Ino put the weights back and sat up, looking at Naruto as he'd gone from the push-ups to squat thrusts. Doesn't he want me anymore now that he died? Ino shook her head. No. He's loving and tender. I'm just spazzing out is all. But fear was creeping in and Ino wanted reassurance. 16. Just one more year and you're finally toned as mine, Naruto. No running. I'm pushing the marriage contract and I want my wedding night. She watched him work out even more with a sigh as he mindlessly went from his squat thrusts to jumping jacks, then his morning jog. You're as mine, Uzumaki. She muttered out loud, knowing she couldn't use the Namikaze name. She swore she wanted to hit the old man for that. But until they were Jonin, he'd made them use a blood vow before entering the chamber. Crafty old bastard. Ino thought none too kindly, watching her man run the field. It was the size of running around Konoha, and they usually did 10 laps before cooling down. For some reason, this morning, Ino felt like just watching her man. Naruto Uzumaki was confused. He'd felt Ino watching him the whole morning and she hadn't joined him on their morning run. Did I do something? I know I haven't forgotten any important dates. I mean, she can't expect me to celebrate our anniversary as we're not married yet, does she? He kept running as he thought about it. I mean, we're 15 again, and while I know there won't be anyone else for me, maybe she's going to decide that she could make things better by getting the Uchiha. Naruto felt the Kyuubi mentally slap him for that. I guess Ero Sanin is right, even Kami who made woman doesn't understand them. Another mental slap across the back of the head from the Kyuubi made Naruto nearly stumble. Fine. I get it. I'm being stupid, he admitted. But why is she looking so sad? That night Naruto was laying in bed when Ino came out of the shower and in a shirt that had been his laid down next to him. She snuggled against him, her cheek resting on his chest. Naruto's arm automatically went around her. Ino-chan. He asked softly. Have I done something wrong? Naruto asked. Ino pushed herself up and looked at him. What? You've been unusually quiet the last few days, and you look sad. Naruto said. This time he was feeling 15 despite his older memories. Ino shook her head. No, I just feel. Do you love me, Naruto? She asked suddenly. What? Naruto sat up and looked at her in shock. Of course I love you, Ino-chan. What brought this on? He asked, pulling her into a hug, both of them sitting up in bed. It's stupid, I know. But I want you, and you keep pulling away and. Naruto laughed. Don't laugh at me, you nerve herder. She said, slapping him on the shoulder, pulling back. Ino, Kami, of course I want you, but Ino, we're 15. Your father will kill me if. Ino looked at him and buried her head into his shoulder. I'm such a spaz, I know, it's just. You miss waking up to your orgasms and all those things we used to do. Naruto said, and she nodded into his shoulder. Naruto let out a breath. Me too. He muttered lowly. I have to mentally slam myself into the ground, Ino-chan. He admitted. You won't believe how many times me diving into the pond wasn't for training, but to cool down after watching you work out. Ino looked at him and he laughed. Love, those workout shorts are like a second skin, and watching you work out is a trial of self-control in that I don't jump you and have my wicked ways with you. Ino smiled coyly as she straddled his lap. You think I'm Kami? Yes. Naruto said. And you looking as good as you did when you were 18 isn't helping my self-control, Hime. Ino smiled. You think I'm. You want to date me? She said in a sing-song voice. Naruto groaned as she shifted and Ino smiled, feeling his reaction. Stop it, Hime. He said, putting his hands on her hips to stop her from moving. I promised your dad. Ino pouted. But I want my Naru cookies. Naruto laughed. Love, I'm only a man, and at this stage a very young one. Even with 30 years plus memories in my head, my self-control only is so much. Ino smiled even more. Want to see if I can break it? No. Naruto said and smiled as she pouted. You really want your father to kill me this time? Ino smiled. She and Naruto had dated and had last time months before she even told her parents they were going out. Somehow, Naruto blamed Shikamaru's big mouth. Inoichi had learned that the two of them had been sharing a tent on a mission and they weren't quiet. The chase put all the previous Naruto hunts by Anbu to shame as Inoichi chased him 6 hours all around Konoha. Ino yelling for Naruto not to hurt her, daddy, and for Inoichi not to hurt her, Naru-kun. Ino's mother sighing and making them both something as they sat atop the flower shop and watched the chase, her mother asking her questions calmly while in the distance Naruto's filled the night air. Big baby. Daddy loves you. He won't hurt you. At least nothing Kyuubi can't heal at least. Naruto muttered and twitched, remembering how close some of the shuriken and mono wire attacks had gotten to his manhood during the chase. Ino looked him in the eye. I want you, Naruto. I want you so badly. She said softly. I know, Hime. Just. You have until we're out of here and married. I'm invoking it as soon as we walk out. Naruto looked at her. Pushy. Aren't you? He said with a smile. You know it, Buster. 2 years already without you has been torture with you so close and looking so damn good. She giggled. I had thought about jumping you when I first saw you after coming back. And traumatize me, Naruto said with a grin. Girls were barely on my radar at that age, Hime. I saw Sakura because, well, she had been nice to me before the academy. Ino put her head against his shoulder. I was stupid when I was younger. But still cute, Naruto said, and she could hear the grin in his voice. She tried to grind against him, to get some satisfaction, but his hands held her firm. Ah, not even just with the clothes on. She whined. Never stays with. Just. With you, Hime. We nearly missed Saru's music recital because you wanted. Just a quickie, and how about the time? Ino kissed him, silencing his words. She knew he was right. But Kami, I love this man. So what if we have a very active life? We showed everyone doesn't end with marriage. Ino smiled into his kiss as his hands slowly left her hips and she began to slowly, with a tortoise ground her hips, her center touching him, and she could feel him rise to the challenge. Naruto pulled back. Clothes stay on, he said, and Ino nodded. Better than nothing. So what if laundry will have to be done in the morning? Perhaps I can get him to do more before we're 16. Ino thought, remembering how talented her husband's tongue and hands were. I think it's time for some very aggressive negotiations. She thought as she nipped his neck and sucked on certain points that had Naruto groaning and his eyes rolling into the back of his head as she continued to grind against him, her panties soaked with her juices as she worked him harder. It's always fun to see how far I can bend his iron will. She thought and moaned as his hands came into play, rubbing and caressing her over the shirt. Ino made a mewing sound, wishing the clothes were gone. Come to mama, she thought as she felt him nibbling her own neck. Year 3, hyper time. 3rd hour real time. Ino smiled as she zipped up her bag. They'd spent their final morning cuddling together without clothes. While there had been no penetration, much to Ino's displeasure, they had done many other things to one another. Are you sure you got everything, Hime? The now 16-year-old Naruto Uzumaki asked the woman that was his soulmate. Yep. I even found where that pair of panties ended up after our night in the jacuzzi. Naruto shook his head as he finished the final inspection. He looked at the training room as the self-repair seals fixed the last of the damage from their midnight spar. Spar nothing. That was a damn near rutting session if I ever saw one. Naruto thought with a grin. Ready to see your folks? He asked. You bet. And then to the temple. Ino said. Naruto chuckled. Not even a moment's delay. he asked. Hell no. You grab the Hokage. I'll grab my folks, and tonight is my wedding night, so you better have enough energy to make me happy. Naruto smiled as he walked up and put an arm around her waist and pulled her into a kiss. As you command, my very pushy and beautiful woman. They were kissing as the Hokage opened the door. Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure, the professor and one of the greatest ninja in the world, was blown back by a monstrous nosebleed seeing Ino's legs wrapped around Naruto's waist, the whisker-marked boy holding her up with his hands cupping her backside, the two of them kissing passionately ignored the older man as Ino moaned as she ground into her soon-to-be husband again. Sarutobi twitched as more blood came out his nose. The couple separated. Hey Oji-san, long time no see. Naruto said, his arm around Ino's waist, her feet on the floor, her long blonde hair in a topknot, the ponytail reaching past her waist. Smiled. Pervert, she said. What? Inoichi Yamanaka roared. Naruto back-flipped over the back of the couch and was nearly to the door when Ino yelled out. Naruto, freeze. She stood and looked at her father. And daddy, I am so disappointed in you. Her eyes narrowed. Inoichi froze and sputtered. What? In me? Ino's mother Izumi smiled as she saw her daughter, who hours ago was 13, now 16, verbally manhandle her father. Yes, in you. This morning you had no problem signing that contract, you even smiled. And now hours later you're acting like a spoiled Uchiha who was told he couldn't have his way. Naruto coughed at that and Inoichi looked at his wife. But princess, when I signed that this morning, you were 13, my baby girl. I'm still your princess daddy. But I want to be Naruto's wife. Izumi. Inoichi whined as he looked at his wife. Don't whine at me, Inoichi Yamanaka. She said. You told her when she was 16 she could marry Naruto. But, 3 years, and, he looked at his daughter and whined. She cheated. Naruto laughed and stopped seeing Inoichi glare at him. I'm a ninja daddy, it's what I do. Ino said, getting his attention. Well, Inoichi looked around then hit an idea. You haven't been placed. I forbid you from. Inoichi Yamanaka. Izumi yelled and the younger set of blondes in the room watched as the man physically flinched and seemed to try to do a vertical fetal position while remaining upright and erect at the same time. Izumi looked at the young couple and saw Ino now next to Naruto. The pair had an arm around the other's waist and she saw the look in her daughter's eyes. Go upstairs right this instant. Change into your best clothes and you will then walk with us to the temple and give your daughter away. And you will do it with a smile, or as Kami is my witness you will sleep out in the garden for a year. Inoichi's mouth opened and closed several times, no sound came out. Finally he was able to speak. Fine. I'll just go get ready. He stomped up the stairs. Izumi looked at Naruto and gave him a smile. Welcome to the family, Naruto. Just make my baby happy. I will Mrs. Yamanaka. Mom. Call me Mom. Your family now, she said and Ino smiled. Come on dear, we need to get proper clothes. She looked at her mother. We'll be back in about 2 hours, Mom. Okay dear. Wait, do you need? The Hokage is covering it, Mom. Ino said. We're supposed to meet him in. She pulled Naruto's arm up and twisted it to look at the wristwatch. 5 minutes. She kissed her mom's cheek. Naruto did the same and they were gone. Izumi smiled, then realizing she had to get ready rushed up the stairs. Inoichi's yell as she joined him in the shower turned to giggles soon after. No, Ino said seeing the kimono. But Ino-hime, Naruto whined. No, now go back in there and come out with the one I picked out. Ino ordered. Her gown was nearly done and she'd come to see how her husband was. She did not expect him to find the brightest, most neon orange outfit and for the Hokage to smile and agree with him. She looked at the old man and scowled. You buy him any more orange and I will burn every damn book you have and castrate you with a spoon. Sarutobi backed up, the grin gone from his face. Third Hokage or not, I've worked too damn hard on breaking his bad habits for you to help him backslide. She said, putting her hands on her hips. It was one thing when he was a child, but he's a leaf shinobi now and in less than an hour he will be my husband, and I won't let you dress him up in horrendous orange. She turned and smiled as Naruto came out. The deep blue looked wonderful on him, and the leaf symbol in white enhanced the kimono. Well, he asked nervously. You look very handsome dear. She said with a smile and ignoring the Hokage gave him a deep kiss. Now, go wait for me at the temple. It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride in her wedding gown. She kissed him again and was off to the other part of the shop. The Hokage stepped up and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. She's like a force of nature, my boy. Are you certain you wish to be married to her? Naruto had a huge grin on his face. More than anything in the world, Gramps. Sarutobi smiled seeing his young charge's face. Minato had the same look around Kushina. He looked up. Kami, if I've ever done anything right or even if my soul should be damned to the fiery pits of hell, please let this couple have good fortune and a long life together. He went to pay for the kimono and gown and then lead a still grinning Naruto towards the temple. The simple ceremony attended by Ino's parents, the Hokage, old man Ichiraku and his daughter, along with Shikamaru, Choji and their parents who had been invited by Izumi. Ino nearly killed Shikamaru who coughed when the priest asked, if there is anyone here who thinks this couple should not be married. After the kiss, which had many wondering how long the pair of blondes could hold their breath, and the older females smiling at the new couple, there had been photos and Ino laughed when Shikamaru saw them as 16-year-olds. What did you two do now? He asked leaning against a bench. What do you mean, Shika? Ino said as she watched her father talking with Naruto and the Hokage. You weren't 16 yesterday, Ino. He said with a grunt. Well, if you must know, Naruto and I with the permission of the Hokage used a special device to train. Shikaku smiled. The legendary chamber. How's it like? Shikamaru glared at his father, but was curious as well. Well, an hour in there translates to a year. During that time we worked out. And decided to marry Naruto. Shikamaru asked and Ino smiled at the jealous tone in her friend's voice. She couldn't help it and reached out and pinched his cheek. Don't worry, little Shika, you're still one of my best friends. Troublesome blondes. He huffed and went to talk to Naruto. Choji stepped up and smiled. You look beautiful, Ino. The larger boy said as he gave her a hug. And if Naruto makes you happy, I'm happy for you both. Thank you, Choji. What's this I hear you joined the civilian militia? He laughed. Well, you know we only act as city guard for private areas since the ninja forces have so much. Hell, the police force is still nothing without the Uchihas. It gives me time to help mom with the restaurant and I guard places like the academy or the hospital. He shrugged. I didn't think the life of a ninja was for me. Are you mad? I broke up the Ino Shika Cho dream. Ino hugged her friend. No, I always want what is best for my friends. And if this makes you happy, then do it. Choji smiled. And don't worry about Shika. He just doesn't want anything to change and then I join the civilian militia and you become a beautiful woman and get married. Ino was about to respond when a laughing voice from behind her interrupted. Are you hitting on my wife Akamaki? She's too good for you, Uzumaki. Choji fired back. The two were friends in a certain way from the academy. Of course she is, but once Inohime gets an idea in her mind, she becomes too troublesome. Shikamaru said from the side. Ino looked at him and saw the look in his eyes. He nodded and she smiled. Now, I believe we have time for dinner and dancing before we leave. Naruto said. All right. Choji said, rubbing his hands together. Ino saw the Hokage wince as both Choji and his dad looked ready for the dinner part. Where are we going? Ino asked. Well, for dinner. I thought Chen's. Naruto said, not meeting her eye. That's not what I meant. Ino said, adding a slight growl to her voice. Look out, Naruto. She gets bossy. Shikamaru teased. Bossy nothing, Shika. She gets downright pushy and isn't above physical torture. Naruto joked and catching her hand kissed her palm. But it's one of the things I love about her. And what else? Inoichi smirked. Well, she does this thing with her. Ino's hand covered his mouth and Inoichi looked pale. I shouldn't have asked. I know better. The older blonde muttered knowing he had walked into it with his question. Izumi patted her husband's arm. So, what are your plans? Naruto smiled. Well, I'm aware we need to be back before team placements, so I thought we'd do a small honeymoon and then a longer one later. Ino smiled. Sadly, the old man still hasn't told me who our teammate or sensei are. Surprises are good for you. The Hokage said as he tilted his hat. I'll remember that when I show Konohamaru my cage killer. Several of the adults looked at Naruto and Ino sighed. You asked for it, Lord Hokage. He's taken it as a personal challenge now. Shikaku smirked. A cage killer. Naruto's hands went to position, but Ino grabbed it and shook her head. Sorry, but it's an A to S ranked secret technique, one that I won't let him use. She said. Now curiosity was getting the best of them all, but the newlyweds smiled, then turned and entered Chen's. Sarutobi went to the manager and told him to send him the bill and closed the door after hanging a private party sign on the door. Naruto asked the Hokage why no one was yelling at him like they usually did. Because my boy, you're 16, whereas before you were 13 and wearing orange clothing. Thanks OG-san, for everything. No, thank you, for allowing a foolish old man to witness your wedding. Naruto laughed. Are you kidding, old man, your family? Between dinner and dancing they all had a good time. Ino smiled as she hugged her parents and promised they'd be back by Friday. Ready, love? He asked as they walked out the village gates. For what? Naruto smiled as his hands went through the motions. Kuchio's no jutsu. He shouted after wiping his blood along the way. Thunder and lightning flashed across the sky. The couple rose up into the air as underneath them a monstrous cloud of smoke formed. Ino looked down while holding onto her husband's arm and smiled. They were standing atop the head of the legendary nine-tailed fox. Hey Kyuubi-chan. Naruto said. Brat. Let's go. Ino-hime and I have a honeymoon. The giant fox that towered over the Hokage monument grunted and leapt. People in Konoha that had been out and witnessed this needed a change of shorts. There were several reports of heart attacks and a mass stampede to the bar. Nearly 100 reports on the Hokage's desk by morning of ninja swearing they saw the Kyuubi and were drunk on duty. Sarutobi, who had seen it, sighed. Naruto, he muttered as the prankster and his new bride left him a hell of a mess to clean up. Friday's too soon. He muttered and lit his pipe. Ino Uzumaki smiled as she snuggled into her husband's chest. She smiled as she slowly traced the seal mark on his stomach. The wedding night was better than the first one. Okami, there's something to be said with experience. She smiled. And how many women can say the same man broke their cherry twice? Closing her eyes, she recalled their arrival to the coastal town. It had a hotel and hot spring. Naruto got them the cage suite, and she smiled as she remembered being carried over the threshold, the soak in the room's private hot spring, the first time they made love. Love, nothing that was a rut to end all ruts. I should have known teasing him over the past year in hyper time would come back and bite me. She giggled as she felt the love bites he'd left on parts of her body let her know they were there. I told him to bite me, and the goofball did. She smiled as she remembered the second time. It was slow, and he brought her close several times, only to back off and start again. Kami, my husband is so gifted. I just want to shout from the top of the Hokage monument how great a lover he is and then inform all the other women that they lost out as Naruto is off the market. Her eyes rested on the wedding band on her left hand. How did he find it? He told me last time he found it while he was on a mission to Spring Country, but he did it. Ino smiled a content smile. The soft snores of her husband told her that he was sound asleep. Poor dear. I wore him out, but then 6 times is something. She smiled again. I wonder how the village handled seeing Kyuubi as a summon. She giggled. Naruto's always a show-off. I didn't expect him to do that, but Kami, it was something riding the fox here then walking into town. She felt his arm around her squeeze a bit and he was back to sleep, a soft snore. Ino was too wired to sleep. Hell, I feel like I can do several C-rank missions right now. She continued to trace the seal on his stomach. She thought of her father's reactions and while she knew it hadn't been fair of how she cheated to marry Naruto. But Kami, I can't do this without him. Daddy will just have to get over it quicker this time. Her leg entwined with Naruto's, she studied his features. The time in the chamber has worked miracles. Not only is he physically fit, but with our knowledge we won't be stumbling around trying to learn, we will be going on the offensive this time. She felt his arm tighten. Ino-chan, he mumbled. Ino looked up and saw his blue eyes looking at her. I'm here, love, she whispered. Good. He mumbled as he held her tighter and drifted back to sleep. I knew he'd have dreams, Kami, don't let them get too bad. Ino watched her husband sleep. It was something that was a little secret. She loved watching him so at peace. She did it when they dated, and it continued on up until the day he was killed. I won't let it happen. If the Uchiha even thinks in the wrong direction, I will scramble his mind to the point he thinks he's an 8-year-old girl and I'll let Moegi braid his hair in pigtails. Ino spent time just watching him sleep, her thoughts bouncing from topic to topic. She knew that they would have to go back to Konoha tomorrow. Naruto's going to meet Konohamaru, and show him the ninja centerfold jutsu. I refuse to call it sexy jutsu, despite how hot he looks as a woman. Ino giggled. They'd experimented once. Naruko, as Ino dubbed her husband's female form, had surprised her one night. So unfair that she can wind me up like that. And then that bath and massage. Ino blushed as she recalled what her husband had done to her that night in his female form. I am not into women, but because I knew it was Naruto, it was okay. Of course he'd poked fun at her for days, asking her what she thought of their female friends and flirting with her, popping up around town as Naruko and eating things suggestively. I attacked him that night. I think I cracked my hip with the amount of we had that night. Ino thought with a naughty grin tainted with humor. Ino also recalled the funeral for Jiraiya, how broken Naruto had been. This time he's not dying of anything but old age, or a Tsunade beating. Ino knew it was going to be hard to keep things the same and alter things at the same time, but with her husband, the prank master from hell, she knew they could do it. That and so much more, we will do it all. She thought as she finally drifted off to sleep. She knew Naruto would wake up fully in a few hours, and she was glad to once more have the stamina and endurance to keep up with him. I'll send a nice gift to the Hokage for letting us use that. She thought as sleep claimed her. Back in Konoha, Sakura was looking for Ino in all their usual hangout places, aka meaning places where they could watch Sasuke. With a sigh, she figured her blonde rival must be minding her parents' flower shop, so leaving her vantage point where she was watching Sasuke tend his garden, she headed back towards the shopping district. She entered the shop to find Izumi Yamanaka behind the counter humming. Oh, hello Sakura, the elder woman said. Mrs. Yamanaka, is Ino around? Sakura asked. No, I'm sorry dear, she's away on her honeymoon. I thought she'd told you before she left. Sakura froze. Honeymoon. Wait, Sasuke-kun was at his apartment. I didn't see Ino. Why yes dear. Her and Naruto should be back tomorrow afternoon. But she's too young to get married. Sakura said. No, Ino's 16 dear. That's not possible. She's the same age as I am, and I'm only 13. Sakura said. Izumi smiled as she was arranging a set of flowers for delivery. I thought you knew. Ino and Naruto spent time in the Hokage's chamber. They aged 3 years during their training. You should have seen Inoichi's face when he'd signed the contract that morning, figuring he'd have years to intimidate Naruto. 3 hours later, both come back 16 years old, and Ino says she's activating the contract. Sakura was dazed with the information. Naruto. She looked at Izumi confused. He's such a sweet boy. So caring about Ino. Ino's mom said. But Ino is in love with Sasuke. Sakura said. Izumi looked at her. I don't understand Sakura dear. I'm very certain Ino's in love with Naruto. You should have seen the two of them at the wedding ceremony, it was so sweet. The way they moved, I'd have sworn they'd been married for years. Naruto was very attending of Ino, and he knew all her favorites. Sakura was dazed. I need to go. Bye Mrs. Yamanaka. She backed out of the flower shop. Izumi shrugged then smiled. I hope those two are making me grandbabies. She sighed as she got a look on her face. Inoichi walked in and saw the look on his wife's face and frowned. Can't kill the boy. But he's defiling my precious daughter. But that's his wife now. But that's my baby girl. A sigh from his wife told him all he needed. You better keep her happy, or they won't find the pieces. Naruto woke to a series of violent sneezes. Ino, who'd woken on the first one, sat up and looked at him. You better not be coming down with something, love. Naruto shook his head once the sneeze stopped. I think someone's talking about me. Ino smiled. Probably mom. She was so happy at the wedding and reception. Naruto smiled. I know for a fact, she's happy to see you married. In fact, I have a direct order from your mother. Oh, Ino asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, she said, and I quote, I want lots of grandbabies. End quote. Ino smiled. Now that's an order I wouldn't mind following. She leaned in and kissed him. But, he asked as she pulled back. Well, how about we practice, a lot, but no babies until 18. Ino smiled as she kissed him again. Mind reader. Nope. Just learn to understand my wife and her wants and needs. Oh really? Ino said with a grin as she straddled him. And what are my wants and needs right now, oh husband dear? Naruto smiled as he felt her grinding into him, his whole length buried in her. Why? To make you scream my name and orgasm multiple times before we shower and have breakfast, of course. And, what do, for breakfast? Ino asked as her husband began to match her rhythm. Whatever is on the menu. He whispered into her ear as he lightly nipped it. I love my husband. And I love my wife. Breakfast ended up waiting until lunch as the happy couple's shower turned into Water Olympics. Ino was happy to say gold medals were in high demand there. Their short honeymoon was nearly over, and they would soon go back to Konoha. But they knew that no matter what, they would be having fun. Sarutobi looked out the window and knew that today would be the day that the Uzumakis returned. He looked at the papers on his desk. He just had to summon the Kyuubi. If not for the fact that most people believe it was a genjutsu, then the council would be going more spar. I spent most of the day yesterday calming them down. I told them Naruto was out of the village and there was no way the fox could escape. He puffed on his pipe and sighed. And Izumi comes to me yesterday evening and admits about telling the Haruno girl about the chamber. Inoichi was not pleased with having to perform so many mind wipes last night. The third Hokage puffed on his pipe some more. The adult shinobi know about the chamber and its limitations. He looked at the wall. It will be 3 years before anyone can use it again. There's no limit on the length of time, but once the door is opened after the timer goes off, it will take a year for every hour to recharge the time matrix. Shaking his head, he looked at the requests on his desk. Danzo wants Naruto for his root program. That's not happening. He stamped denied on the sheet and moved it the pile. He read the next sheet and stamped denied as well. He spent an hour doing paperwork when he finally got to one that made him pause. What do we have here? He read the form and smiled. Good idea, Asuma, he muttered. But you're too late. There is no Ino Yamanaka, and separating her from her husband would be very bad for me, and the Akamichi has gone to the civilian guard. He put that aside to talk with his son later. He read the next form and shook his head. You know Ino Haim, for the self-styled professor, he goes about things the hard way. A voice said and the Hokage looked up. Naruto, he said with a grin. Ino. He gave her a bow of the head. Enjoy your honeymoon. We did, but we're not sharing the details, Lord Hokage. Ino said. He looked at them both. Naruto was wearing black ninja pants and a black jacket over a mesh shirt. His hittai was turned into a belt. Ino was wearing a modified battle dress with shorts. Denying an old man simple pleasures. He mock pouted. Ino snorted. Old man has a hand and a novel in his desk. The Hokage goggled at her while Naruto laughed outright. I should warn you, Oji-san, Ino's got a mouth on her and isn't afraid to use it. Naruto said. You didn't complain this morning, love. Ino said with a wink. The Hokage worked with all his years to keep his face expressionless at this. Yes, well, he said with a cough. Now that you are back, he looked at Naruto. What possessed you to summon the Kyuubi like that? Do you know how busy I've been putting out the concerns raised by the council, and all the mind-wiped jutsus I authorized by Anbu for that stunt? Naruto looked at him and shrugged. Tell the council the Kyuubi's tamed and is now a summon of Konoha. Tell them she's dead and her successor to make amends gave me a summon contract. Tell them whatever you want, Oji-san, but Ino and I don't give a damn about their wrinkled asses' wants and desires. The Hokage raised an eyebrow. Naruto, I'm trying to keep them from executing you. Ino snorted. We talked about this while on our honeymoon. My husband will not be a whipping boy for the council nor the villagers. What my lovely wife means, Oji-san, is that expect there to be an increase of visitations to the hospital. Sarutobi sighed. Ino and Naruto put their ninja ID cards on his desk. We would have been here sooner, but we had to get this done. Sarutobi looked at them and saw that the couple was in each other's photo. On Naruto's card, Ino was standing behind her seated husband with her head on his shoulder, both of them grinning at the camera. On Ino's card, she was sitting on her husband's lap, her arm around his shoulders and looking at the camera. He saw that in both ids the blondes were giving the camera the finger. Retake them, he ordered. No, the Uzumakis said unison. It's disrespectful. The Hokage tried. I retake my photo, Oji-san, and the finger will be the least of the worries what I'll expose. Naruto said. Yeah. Ino said, then she got a grin. But we could do something racy. Naruto looked at her and had a lecherous grin. Oh, like that scene from a Ika Ika Beach fantasy. The Hokage had a distant look that took over his eyes, then blew backwards with a nosebleed. All too easy, Ino said as she sat on the edge of the desk. She wiggled her finger at her husband in a come here motion. Naruto did, standing between his wife's legs. We've got some time before Konohamaru shows up. Want to test the desk? Naruto asked with a grin. Ino laughed. I would, but we shouldn't with the Hokage here, he might suffer heart failure. Naruto pouted. They heard a groan and the blondes decided to have some more fun at the Hokage's expense. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. Ino moaned as Naruto hid his grin by putting his head into his wife's chest. Behind them they heard a thump and they looked over to see the Hokage unconscious again. Weak OG-san. Very weak, Naruto said with a sigh. Sarutobi had his chair upright and was glaring at the blondes when the door banged open. On guard, old man. A boy that caused Naruto to smile rushed in, only to have his entrance ruined by tripping over his own feet. Following the boy was a man in a black jumpsuit and a junin, his hitai worn like a bandana over his black hair, and small, round, black sunglasses, that reminded Naruto and Ino of one of their classmates. As the kid hit the ground with a cry of, wow. Naruto shared a look with the embarrassed Hokage, then a small grin with Ino, then his gaze went back to the interrupting duo in the doorway. I get it. It's a trap, right, old man? You're still clever. The boy cried, sitting up and holding his head. Naruto watched as Ebisu shove his sunglasses back up along his nose with his middle finger, before swiftly asking, Hey, are you alright, honored grandson? And for the record, there are no traps here. Naruto kept the disbelief off his face. And this man is a Junin. Sheesh. Then remembering his part in all of this sighed. What's going on? Who's he, kid? And who the hell is the geek? Naruto said. Kid. Konohamaru yelped. Ebisu's head whipped around to stare in surprise and then disgust at Naruto as he finally recognized him. Ino growled at the man for this look. Sarutobi, even warned ahead of time of the event by the blonde pair, watched the scene before him with a growing sense of dread. The words, cage killer, filtered through his mind as well as he recalled Naruto warning him about his first meeting with his grandson, who just had to open his mouth and provoke the blonde. Aha, so you tripped me. It was you, right? The boy cried out just before Naruto appeared before him in a flash, Ino leaning against the desk shaking her head at her husband's actions. Naruto grabbed him by the front of his shirt and lifted him off the ground with ease. You fell over your own feet. Naruto yelled back. Unhand him at once, demon. Ebisu snapped. That boy happens to be Konohamaru, the grandson of our revered third Lord Hokage. He continued, joining the yelling and pointing at the Hokage, who looked like he'd love to be anywhere but in the room at the moment. Ino had always wondered how this meeting went. Despite Naruto and Kon telling her several times, she'd had doubts. It's exactly like they said, she thought. She watched as Naruto looked at her and winked, then turned back to look at the kid in his grasp, and she could almost feel him laughing from here as the kid challenged him. So, take your best shot. I dare you. Like I care, stupid. Naruto yelled right back, dropping him to the ground and then smacked him soundly atop the head. Konohamaru cried in pain again, while Ebisu looked like he was about to suffer a heart attack. I don't care if you were the Hokage's grandmother. He looked at the Hokage, who was trying to keep a straight face. You think this is funny, OG-san? Ino watched her husband's hands go through the motions and she sighed, closing her eyes. I will not be tempted. She kept the mantra going in her mind. Waroke no jutsu. Ino couldn't help but peek to see both Ebisu and the Hokage blown back from nosebleeds. She sighed and turned to look. Yep, there she is in all her glory. Ino studied her husband's ninja centerfold. And she still has bigger than me, so not fair. Ino looked on as the whisker-marked, narrow waist, large D-cup-sized, blonde pigtail girl put a finger to her lip and mock pouted. Perverts, she said cutely. Naruto released the form. Hungry deer? He asked, looking at Ino, and saw her glazed look and smiled. Taking her hand, he pulled her from the room while Konohamaru poked his grandfather, then looked to where the blonde had left. Wicked. He leapt over his unconscious teacher and hurried after the blondes. He's got to teach me that. Konohamaru thought. He's back there. Ino said as they sat eating at the dango stand. I know. Pathetic, isn't it? Naruto said as he sipped his soup. Closet perverts got him believing that there are shortcuts to becoming Hokage. You go play. I'm going to stop in and see mom, Ino said and paused. Actually, I'm going to clean your apartment, and we'll see mom tonight. Don't want to go alone, love? Naruto asked with a grin. Ino shot him one of her own. If you're feeling so brave, I'll let you handle mom then. 7 o'clock sound good to you, honey? The whiskered blonde asked. That will be fine. Ino kissed him on the cheek. Now, go play, and remember, ignore the idiots, we'll deal with them all soon enough. Naruto sighed as he watched her walk towards their apartment. Really going to need a different place. Wish OG-san would give me my inheritance, but Ba-chan said I had to be 18 before that can happen. He thought of the fifth with a hint of sadness. Paying the bill, he wandered the streets, well aware of his shadow. All right, Konohamaru, come on out, he said when they were near the park. This is going to be fun. And this time, you and I are going to do this right. I'll teach you the sexy jutsu, but there will be training as well. You're too damn precious to me. You're my little brother and I will keep you safe. Naruto turned as the boy dropped the mirror sheet. Come with me if you want to learn and become Hokage. Naruto said and the boy's eyes widened. It's good to be me sometimes. Naruto thought as he led the wide-eyed boy away. Ino was walking the street, a smile on her face. Many of the villagers were looking at her strangely, like they recognized her but couldn't place her. She laughed as she recalled the looks Naruto got, but none of the hostility. Until they can place him, he should be fine. She rounded a corner and was staggered. Excuse me, miss, I wasn't, Ino. Ino sighed. Hello, Sakura. Lovely day, isn't it? What happened to you? Sakura asked. Ino smiled. The Hokage mentioned that he had daddy fix mom's slip, The Hokage used a special one-time only jutsu on me and Naruto. She said, seeing the wide-eyed look from her former friend. We just got back from our honeymoon. But you love Sasuke. Ino looked at the pink-haired girl. We went over this already once before, Sakura. I love Naruto. And I would strongly suggest you not insult my husband around me again, or I will pummel you into the ground. Sakura's mouth opened and closed several times. I know he did something to you. You like Sasuke as much as I do. You wouldn't go for the dead last. Sakura quickly found herself pinned to the wall of the nearby building, the blonde's hand pressed against her throat. That's it. Ino snarled. I will let you run your mouth for only so long, forehead. But you will not insult my husband around me ever again. Sakura's eyes widened as the slightly older girl growled at her. Why, what's happened to you, Ino? She hissed out as the hand tightened around her throat. I grew up and found my happy ever after. Ino said. Don't cross me, Sakura. You're my friend, but Naruto is my heart and soul as I am his. Why? The green-eyed girl was having trouble drawing air. I'll explain it when you're older. Ino let her go and she sagged to the ground, gasping for air. I'll be your friend, Sakura. I'd like to talk with you, but you need to break your mentality, or I will, and trust me, you won't like how I go about it. Ino looked up and down the street. No one had seen the confrontation. Now, if you don't mind, I need to clean an apartment until we get some missions under our belts to buy someplace else. Ino started walking away. Sakura was still in shock, but her inner self added her 2 cents. Talk with her. See what happened. Offer to help clean. Ino, Sakura said, waiting until the now older blonde turned. Would you like some help? Ino looked at her. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity to the 13-year-old pink-haired teen, Ino nodded. Sure. Come on. Ino turned and waited. Whatever you have, plain forehead, it won't work. She smiled to herself. Of course I can't wait for you to see the new and improved Naruto with muscles and oozing appeal. Ino's laughter disturbed Sakura as they walked the streets. At a training ground across town, a blonde whisker-marked teen shivered. What is she planning to do to me this time? Shaking his head, he watched as Konohamaru tried again. This time there was a fat pug-faced girl wearing a blue bathing suit. Sigh. I forgot about this. This will take a while. Naruto thought as he helped Konohamaru dispel the jutsu and worked with him some more. You need to picture it in your mind, What did you call me? The younger boy asked. It's a nickname. I mean, Konohamaru is great and all, But, it's a mouthful to say all the time. And it fits you. The dark-haired boy said again and grinned. I like it, boss. Naruto shook his head. Naruto. We're friends, rivals. Rivals. Ko asked. Well, we both want to be Hokage, right? Naruto asked with a grin. Ko nodded his head so quick, Naruto was amazed the boy didn't snap his neck. Remember, no matter what anyone says, the path to the Hokage is hard work and dedication. There are no shortcuts. Ask the old man. He wasn't handed the job. He bled buckets, sweated and shed gallons of tears. He buried friends and loved ones, and he has to send his precious people, those in this village, out to possibly die with any mission. Konohamaru looked shocked. Hokage is a position where you get respect. True, but that respect has to be earned and maintained. The old man's family, all of Konoha, is his to protect, and when you or I become Hokage, it will be up to us to do that as well. If you're just looking to become Hokage to be cool, give up now. Konohamaru sat down to think. Naruto let him. I know this is not how it went last time, bro, but you need to learn that this isn't a game. I won't let you die this time. Naruto focused on his current pupil. Now remember, picture the image in your mind as you gather the chakra. Waroke no jutsu. Konohamaru yelled and another poof of smoke engulfed him. Naruto backed up, seeing a very old female version of the third Hokage. Ko, do you need to speak with someone? He asked. For the last hour the boy had hit everywhere around the mark, except the one he was supposed to get with his sexy jutsu. Man, those were some ugly, no, fugly women he turned into. Now I know where the phrase, a face only a mother could love, came from. Naruto thought with a full body shudder. Konohamaru released the jutsu. What am I doing wrong, bro? He asked with a sulking voice. Half an hour into the training, Ko began calling Naruto brother. The blonde let it go as it was better than boss. Form the ram seal. Naruto said as he used a jutsu Tsunade had taught him to read someone's chakra levels. Wheel, he's on fumes that could matter. The blonde thought. Let's get a bite to eat. The blonde led the ragged younger boy towards town. Naruto was tempted to stop at Ichiraku's ramen stand, but Ino had put her delicate foot down. Hard. The blonde thought. I'm allowed ramen once a week only. She is so mean. He whined, but then he saw a familiar stand and got an idea. Come on, Ko. I feel like dango. Naruto led him into the dango stand, a grin forming on his face as he saw the pineapple-style ponytail and mesh-wearing kunoichi. Bingo. Grab a seat. Naruto said as they took a booth so he could keep an eye on Enko, who was sitting at the bar eating dango and reading a book. This is going to be easy. Naruto thought with a mental grin that if possible would have split his face in two. Gah. Ino said as she shoved more garbage into the bag. I swear, if I find out who did this, I am hanging them from the pole atop the Hokage's tower by their reproductive organs using Senbon needles. The door had been smashed in. The place looked like it had been set fire, and it had taken the fire department some time to put it out. Sakura was using a large broom to push debris into a pile. Why would someone do this? The pink-haired genin asked. Because my husband is the container to the nine-tailed fox that ravaged Konoha 13 years ago. You didn't find out until a mission went wrong and he leapt at you in a semi-transformed state. Ino thought. People are stupid. Ino said. She'd found her husband's hide hole and his precious items were intact. I think I'm going to ask Mom if we can stay there until we can get a newer apartment. Sakura nodded. This place looks like a total loss. I can't believe they did so much damage. Believe it, forehead. And this isn't from one go, this is years and years of this. Naruto can only do so many repairs on the money he had. Crap, we're going to be doing D-rank missions again. Ino thought and shuddered at some of the D-rank missions that were chores no one wanted to do. Sakura picked up a photo. Naruto spends a lot of time around the Hokage. Ino looked over the other girl's shoulder and saw the photo. It was of Naruto at age 5 wearing the Hokage's hat and robes while the third stood next to him smiling. The old man is all Naruto's had. I think that was the day the orphanage threw Naruto out for the last time. Last time? Sakura asked. Never mind, forehead. So, you ready to be a ninja? Not. You are so going to suck. Ino thought. Yeah, I hope I'm with Sasuke-kun. And she's off. Does she even know what that sounds like? God. Fangirls, we are the bane of the real kunoichi. I am so glad I am way past that stage and a happily married woman whose husband is very adventurous in the bedroom. Hey pig, why are you grinning like that? Sakura asked. Ino smiled. I'll tell you when you're older, or when you're not stuffing your bra with toilet paper. Sakura gasped and crossed her arms over her chest. I am all natural. Sure you are. And Lady Tsunade isn't called the legendary sucker. Ino snarked. 500 miles from Konoha, a blonde woman playing a slot machine sneezes several times and whines as she loses again. Damn it. Almost won. Shizune. Bring my bag. 3 hours later. Ino shakes her head. Thanks for the help, Sakura. I think I'll just wait here for Naruto and we'll crash at my folks. At least there I know I have a bed with springs. Ew. Pig. I really don't want to know what you do with Naruto. Ino laughed. Are you certain about that? My whiskered honey can go all night long. Sakura covered her ears and Ino laughed. Man, I forgot how much fun this could be. Naruto sat on the tree branch watching as Anko drove Konohamaru to the ground. Give her a chance and she can show them all. When it comes out that Anko's trained Konohamaru, he laughed as the younger boy was dodging and ducking as Anko was using kunai and shuriken to work on his speed. And to think it will only cost me buying her diner twice a week and a sparring partner every Saturday unless missions come up. Naruto smiled. He had his friend back and it didn't take until he was 18 this time. Granted 16 and married is rather awesome, but Anko-chan became my friend and I missed her. The discussion over lunch had been vile, disgusting, filled with innuendo and bad jokes. The raw flirting had the waitress afraid to come near their table and the bartender had been forced to deal with them, and since Anko was their best customer, he'd put up with a lot of shit during that lunch. Pulling out his pocket watch that the Hokage had given him on his wedding day, he looked and sighed. Playtime is nearly over. Closet pervert shall be here soon. Anko-chan, time out. He called and dropped to the ground. Ko dropped to the ground on his stomach, panting for air. Ah, but he was getting better. The woman whined. I know, and we can do this again tomorrow. But right now we have a closet pervert inbound and I want Ko here to show him my special jutsu that deals with people like him. Can I watch at least? Anko asked. Naruto smiled and held up 2 items. One was a boxed order of dango, the other was a digital camera. Anko smiled, took both and leapt away. Naruto looked back at Konohamaru who still looked like he wanted to vomit his entire intestines out in one go. I hate you. The dark-haired boy said. Naruto smiled. You'll thank me for this later. With Anko teaching you how to dodge while building up your chakra reserves, you'll be miles ahead of your classmates, and remember ask your uncle or the old man to teach you the Sarutobi family style. Start it now, Naruto said. Konohamaru was looking at him now and Naruto smiled seeing that Ko was breathing a bit better already. Now I want you too. Aha. Finally found you. Ebisu said appearing from a tree branch. Naruto rolled his eyes. We weren't hiding. We've been here nearly all damn day except for lunch. Sheesh. How this boner ever made Jonin I'll never know, because he may be a Jonin, but I still think he's a Chunin. I mean seriously, handicapping Ko with that bullshit about shortcuts, that just hurts him down the road you closet pervert. While he'd been ranting, Konohamaru had confronted his teacher and managed to pull off the sexy jutsu. Naruto watched as Ebisu got control of himself and didn't show a reaction, which then made. And Ko did pull it off, now to deal with the asshole. Naruto's sexy jutsu followed by the harem jutsu left Ebisu in the dust and Konohamaru swearing to pick up his training with the psycho lady, and he'd do whatever Naruto said. Patting the younger boy on the head the pair stepped on Ebisu as they walked away, Naruto grinding his heel into the man's balls for being a closet pervert and nearly ruining Ko's education with his shortcut speech. See you later bro, Konohamaru said as he rushed off towards home. Naruto smiled as he thought he'd already made improvements. Later Ko, and this time you will live and you'll be the best damn Hokage Konoha ever sees. Naruto headed for his apartment wondering if Ino had given up yet. I think I have enough for a hotel for a couple nights before we start working and getting mission pay. The blonde thought. Villagers were looking at him, not able to recognize him as he was older than they last saw him. He grinned mentally. Who knew what a difference 3 years in age can make, that as well as new clothes and long hair. He looked at his clothes. But I do miss my orange clothes, they were bright and happy, sigh and of course screamed. Here I am, kill me now. Naruto thought as he climbed the stairs. He paused seeing the door was just resting over the entrance and sighed. Ino-hime. I'm home. He called out as he moved the door aside and turned to see Ino and Sakura amid the debris. Hi Sakura-chan. Naruto said walking past her and kissing Ino before stepping away. Not any longer. Ino said. Place was trashed when we got here. We tried cleaning. His wife said looking around the burned out hovel that for 13 years had been his home. With a sigh he and Ino shared a look and he nodded. We can stay at a hotel until we start getting mission pay and find somewhere else. Naruto said. I'll just get my stuff from the bedroom and I already tossed those orange monstrosities out. Ino said and she smiled seeing his shoulders slump. They wouldn't have fit anyway, sweetie. Damn. There goes the idea of turning the jackets into vests. Naruto thought. I was getting some personal items is all. He said covering his thoughts. Okay. Sakura, would you like to come to my folks with us? Ino asked. Ino turned and saw Sakura looking dazedly at where Naruto had been. Ino laughed at the slightly glassy look and the hint of drool. I warned you. Ino said. No reaction. Forehead. Nothing. Breathe damn it. Ino yelled and shook her friend. Ino. Sakura said with a daze. What? Who was that? That was Naruto. You know, the guy the first married. Oh. Sakura slumped to the ground and Ino couldn't help it, she laughed her off. Naruto came out hearing the yell. What the hell? What did you do to her Ino-hime? Naruto asked his wife. Me. This is all you husband mine. Sakura it seems couldn't comprehend the hunk you were in her mind short-circuited. Naruto looked at the girl he had a crush on and in a past life was a teammate to and shook his head. Women. Never understand them in a million years. He muttered and went back to the bedroom. Ino laughed some more before using a sweetened jutsu that sent a jet of water into her friend's face. Sakura sat up sputtering and looked around wildly. Did I fall asleep? The pink-haired teen asked. Ino smirked. Nope. You passed out after seeing my sweat-covered husband walk through the door. Sakura's mind supplied the image and she blushed. Ino smiled. Just remember forehead, he's off the market. What are you talking about Ino? Sasuke is way hotter. Sakura said, but Ino saw her friend's eyes travel back towards the bedroom door where they could hear Naruto moving things around. If you like scrawny, pale and a personality of a dead fish. Ino said, I prefer someone explosive, will love me tender and give me hot passionate when. Sakura blew back from a nosebleed when Ino mentioned. The blonde kunoichi smiled. Score. She turned back to the door seeing Naruto walking out wearing a shirt that was very tight, as he'd built a better frame. And I will again tonight, she muttered, wiping a trickle of blood from her own nose. Now I know you did something this time Ino-hime. Naruto said seeing Sakura unconscious with a nosebleed and a huge grin that reminded him of OG-san's earlier. Ino shrugged helplessly. We'll stay with my folks until we get a new place. Ino told her husband. Naruto gulped. Lamby toes, you're aware that your dad wants to kill me already. Ino waved it off. We're married. Mom will contain him. Ino took the bag from her husband. Now, grab forehead, we'll drop her off at her mom's. Naruto sighed and picked up the now younger girl. Work. Yes, but you've got to admit, the incentives are the best. Ino said, kissing his cheek. You can shower at my folks. I take it your training with Konohamaru went well. It went great. Naruto said as they walked the streets, the pink-haired girl snuggling into his chest with a grin on her face. Got Anko to help out. Ino smiled. Already looking for that threesome. Naruto grunted. Naruto-kun. Sakura said as she snuggled in more and inhaled his scent. Naruto looked at Ino who had the same surprised look on her face that was on his. Well, we know now who is looking for a threesome. He joked. They reached the Harunos and Ino knocked. Sakura's mom opened the door. Yes. Hey, Mrs. Haruno. Sakura passed out. We're just bringing her home before heading to my folks. Ino said. The pink-haired woman looked at Ino then blinked. Ino. Yup. Oh, that's right, your mother mentioned you got caught in some kind of forbidden jutsu and aged a bit. Ino blinked. Mom, she's as bad as Sakura's mom when she gossips. Yeah, this is my husband Naruto. Ino said. Yes, your mother mentioned him as well. Come on in. Naruto, still carrying the unconscious teen, looked around. Her room's at the end of the hall past the stairs. Naruto followed Ino and once in Sakura's room put the girl down on the bed. As they returned to the living room they found Mrs. Haruno waiting. A cup of tea, she offered. No thank you. We need to visit my folks. Our apartment was firebombed while we were on our honeymoon. Ino said. Oh, how terrible. Mrs. Haruno said. Well, if you need a place, I still have that extra room upstairs. Ino bowed. Thank you, Mrs. Haruno. We'll keep that in mind. She headed for the door, Naruto ahead of her. Nice meeting you, ma'am, he said. You too, Naruto. The pair escaped to the street. I repeat, weird, Naruto said as they walked. Ino nodded, then smiled as Naruto spun her into his arms. I missed you, he said as he nibbled her neck. Ino's mind was shutting down. We shouldn't do this in the middle of the street, she muttered as she fought to form the words. You're all sweaty. Naruto smiled as he nibbled her neck. And you can make me more sweaty, he said with each nip on his wife's neck. Ino was finding it hard to think. She knew her earlier teasing had gotten him in the mood. The clearing of a throat caused the pair to leap apart. Of all the people to find us, it has to be him, Ino thought. Standing several feet away, his lone eye forming the U shape that indicated a smile, was none other than Kakashi Hatake. In his hand was the familiar orange book that Ino would never admit to having the whole collection in a secret place under her bed. Which reminds me, I need to pack those up later. You really shouldn't be doing that in the middle of the street. Anbu might not be as understanding, Kakashi said. Naruto looked at his teacher from his past life and wondered if he would have him again. But I don't know him right now, except he was one of my guards when I was younger. Sorry, Ino said, breaking across the thoughts forming. Newlyweds, she said and grabbed Naruto's hand. The pair shushined away. Kami, thank God I can do that again, Ino thought as they appeared several rooftops away. That was embarrassing, Naruto said. Ino grunted as she was working on calming herself down. Would have been more so if we'd been caught having in the middle of the street. Naruto smirked. No different than the time in Suna when Gaara caught us on his desk. Ino laughed and remembered the redhead's yell. She'd learned later from Shikamaru, who'd heard from Temari that Gaara had the desk destroyed, burned and its ashes scattered to the winds. You're rotten, she said. Naruto smiled at his wife. I am what you make me, dear. Ino nodded. Well then I'm making you head to my parents, and shower. You stink, Uzumaki. Naruto pouted as his wife leapt away. Aw man. He looked down. Heel boy. Later. In the back of his mind Naruto could hear the female giggling of the Kyuubi. And the whispered words, at this rate Kit, you'll have blue balls from all her teasing. Then the long pause, of course you will drive her into the bed, and she'll walk funny tomorrow and the day after. Naruto ignored the voice in his head as he went to catch up with his wife and a long cold shower at the in-laws. Naruto woke with a stretch and a groan. His blue eyes settle on the door or the entrance to the room as Inoichi last night had kicked the door off the hinges into several pieces as Ino and Naruto were having. If Ino hadn't pinned him down, and turned and snarled at her father, Naruto would have been out the window but and running as far as he could as if the hounds of hell were after him. Izumi had come in, grabbed Inoichi by his ear and dragged him away, telling Ino and Naruto to have a nice night and she'd see them at breakfast. Shish. You're thinking too loud, Ino muttered as she nuzzled her husband's neck. Naruto smiled as he kissed the top of her head. Despite his fear she'd managed to get him back in the swing of things. I know I heard Izumi tackle Inoichi around 4 am. Naruto thought. Sorry love. It's 6, we should get up and do our workout. Ino groaned. Not today. We've gotta meet for team placements. Naruto smiled as he kissed her forehead now. Well, how about a shower then? I'll make breakfast. Ino sat up straddling him. How about a different workout, and shower? Naruto smiled seeing his wife's tanned body. Your dad could walk in again, Naruto said as Ino began her rhythm. Nope. Mom's got him tied up in the living room. She did that after he tried to rush the room the last time, Okami. Naruto smiled as he loved listening to his wife's moans, the way her eyes would flutter, the pulse on her neck would quicken. Sitting up he slowly nibbled her neck on her pulse point, Ino's arms going to his shoulders while his own hands cupping her as Ino continued her pace. Naruto was kissing his way down between her neck when, get your perverted hands off my daughter. Both blondes turned to see Inoichi, still strapped to the recliner from the living room trying to get in the doorway, his eyes holding madness as he glared at Naruto. When I get my hands on you. Inoichi. Naruto, with Ino still impaled on him, could only watch as his mother-in-law grabbed her husband by his ear and dragged him away. There was a loud crash and the sound of a body being dragged down the stairs. Inoichi Yamanaka, you should be ashamed of yourself. They are married and they have a right to do what they are doing to give me grandbabies to spoil, and I will not allow you to interrupt them anymore. Azumi's voice carried as she dragged her husband down the stairs. They are doing what all happily married couples do, and how do you think you'd feel if my father would have done what you did to us? She's married woman and as Kami is my witness, you threaten, intimidate or interrupt them in any way shape or form and you can sleep at Shikaku's with the deer, as you won't be sleeping in my bed. Inoichi's muttered reply couldn't be heard, but the blonde couple still in mid-coitus shared a look. We are getting our own place as soon as possible. I love your folks, Heim. Really I do, but your dad scares me. Ino looks in her husband's eyes, and slowly kisses him. Later. We have something to finish, and I want a shower before mom finishes making breakfast. Naruto smiles fox-like as he gets up, still buried in his wife, and carries her down the hall to the bathroom. Waste not an opportunity. Remember hot water to start. Ino says as she uses the shower wall to brace herself. Work, work, work. Naruto says teasingly. Married life rock is the best life. Both blondes think, ignoring the howls from outside the bathroom door and a loud thud and the sound of a body being dragged doesn't bother either of them as they wash and worship one another. 2 hours later, both blondes are rushing the rooftops, Naruto bright red as he refuses to look at his wife. I'm sure she didn't mean it, Naru-kun. Ino said as they leapt over a roadway to another set of buildings. We are so not talking about it. Naruto said as he leapt again, glad to have his control back. Granted, it took 3 solid years of chakra exercises, but it's worth it. The whiskered blonde thought. Hey, are you two done mating like rabbits? Damn it. Can't you, I don't know, go into hibernation? No. Besides, I think I should be jealous. Shut up. Take a nap. Are you listening to me? Ino asked. No, arguing with a certain fuzzy pain in my. Naruto muttered. Wrong plumbing, sweetie. Ino said. Naruto sighed as he stopped atop a building with a large water tank. What's wrong? Ino asked, stopping with him, her hand touching his shoulder. Should we be doing this? I mean, we're trained and this won't be fair, Naruto sighed. Naruto, honey, we need to do this. We need to keep things close to the vest after my mess up. You're stalking a boy who had no clue why Uchiha fangirl suddenly wanted him. Naruto said with a grin. Hush. I woke up alone and I wanted my husband back. I hate waking up alone. And no morning. Naruto grinned as he pulled her to him. As what mom said still bothering you? Ino asked. Naruto chuckled. No. I just forgot how your mom can be, and I swear she's a prank master at heart, as she always timed it till when I had a mouthful of food. Ino laughed. I thought daddy was going to have heart failure right at the table. Your cruel love. Naruto said, resting his head on her shoulder. I know we can't take any missions until we officially get a team, but OG-san needs to know the apartment is trashed. As all that pink and purple of my room intimidating you, love? Ino said with a grin. No, your father armed with sharp-pointed objects in which he's determined to introduce to my manhood. I'll protect you, love, Ino said as she traced a pattern on his chest. Ready to shock the genin and the tem? Ino asked. Naruto smiled. Feels weird in a way with Choji joining the civilian militia. Ino nodded. Well, he only guards areas. They had to pick up the slack with the Uchiha police force wiped out. The Uzumakis took their time and saw Sakura standing at the gates of the academy. She's waiting on the tem? Naruto asked. No. You and I both know he's there 10 minutes early all the time. I think she's waiting on us. Ino said. Naruto grunted. And no, you're not getting a threesome. Damn. Naruto said with a grin and dodged his wife's playful slap. He looked at her. Not even with Anko-chan. Ino shuddered. She'd kill me inside of 10 minutes. Naruto laughed, and it carried, and Sakura looked up, seeing the blonde pair rushing the rooftops and landing before her. You're going to get it when we get home. Ino threatened. I know I will, but we need a new door first. Naruto fired back. Morning, Sakura-chan. Naruto said. Ino saw her friend zone as her green eyes drank in the 16-year-old form of Naruto Uzumaki. Oi, forehead, stop drooling over my husband. Ino said, snapping her fingers in front of her friend's face. Sakura blinked. Morning, forehead. Ino said after getting the pink-haired Kunoichi's attention. Ino. Naruto laughed as he put an arm around Ino's waist. Come on, the bell's going to sound. Sakura followed them as if in a daze. Ino leaned in and whispered. Looks like someone's got a new crush. Naruto's blue eyes snapped open wider and he looked at his wife. I know love, she said with a grin. Hurry up, forehead. She called over her shoulder and turned back with a grin. She is checking out your. Naruto looked and grinned then leaned in. Actually, I think she's checking yours out and is jealous. Ino laughed, and Naruto looked at her. I just love how your awesome legs go up and make an out of themselves. Swatting his belly, she smirked. Behave, you'll scare the genin. They reached the second floor and their classroom. Naruto reached out and opened the door. Ladies, he said with a bow. Sakura, still stunned as she'd thought the other night had been a dream as she'd woken up in her own bed, entered the room first, and showing how much of a shock she was in still, she passed up Sasuke's row that had 2 seats open and went to the middle section and sat down in a daze. A screech drew everyone's attention and they heard laughter as Ino came in. Everyone was in shock seeing her 3 years older, many of the girls jealous as they saw her figure. Shikamaru sighed and muttered, troublesome blondes. Before putting his head down and going back to sleep. Kiba drooled at the curves Ino had and muttered, gonna get me some of that Akamaru. Naruto's entrance had the females in shock. Touch my wife Kiba and Akamaru will be able to claim you as his personal bitch by the time I'm done. Naruto. The blonde smirked at Hinata's whispered naming in her wide eyes. Mornin' Hinata-chan, he said as he followed Ino up towards the back past everyone. Ino, seeing the girls looking, sighed and rolled her eyes. Back off, bitches, he's married. She said and held up her hand showing off her wedding band. And I don't share. Naruto sat with Ino taking the aisle seat. Hey Shika. The pair said to the sleeping Nara, who grunted and didn't raise his head. Your hair is on fire. Naruto said. Troublesome. Was the muttered response. Ino leaned in and noticed everyone was watching as she whispered into her husband's ear. She noticed Hinata's looks. I am so going to have to break her of that habit. Wonder who I can. Perfect, but it will take till the exams. If things have changed, might as well fix relationships. Ino. Naruto said as she spaced out. Sorry, planning. Do you have any of your snappers? His wife asked. Always. Naruto said, pulling the small snappers out. The little white pieces filled with powder were quick bangs, and she remembered when Naruto had made them for Saru on his 5th birthday. Her son threw them at everyone. No harm, but the loud snap got attention. What are you planning? He asked, seeing the twinkle in her eye. Shish, she said and cupped them under her hand on the desk and took one out, and tossed it under Shikamaru's seat. Snap. Shikamaru jumped and looked around. His eyes settled on the blondes who were whispering to one another. The rest of the class looked back at him. What? Discussions broke out again as the bell sounded and Shikamaru went to take a nap. His head just touched the tabletop when. Snap. He jerked and looked around. Everyone was looking at him. He looked at Ino and Naruto, who were now looking at him. He narrowed his eyes as he saw a very familiar look in Ino's eyes and he groaned. Iruka walked in, saving the blonde pair from any accusations. All right, settle down. Students kept talking and milling about. Class. No one was listening. Shikamaru's head was going back towards the desk. Please give me your attention. Iruka tried to no avail. Shut up. Snap. Both at the same time got results as the class looked at the teacher and Shikamaru jumped a foot in the air as a snap sounded right by his head and he looked around wildly. Take your seats. Iruka ordered, wondering what was going on. He'd been informed by the Hokage about Naruto's and Ino's changes and his eyes widened seeing the pair for the first time since the Mizuki incident. What the hell? There. Iruka shook himself, letting nothing be seen on his face. We are here this morning so you all can be assigned to your teams. Hey, if that's the case, what's Naruto doing here? Kiba yelled out. Naruto's original test was sabotaged and he was allowed a makeup which he passed with flying colors. Iruka said, and Naruto stuck his tongue out at Kiba, who turned to glare at the blonde. Now then, Iruka began and he saw Shikamaru's head drifting towards the desk. Team 1. Iruka got to finish up to Team 6 before. Snap. Ag. Shikamaru yelled, leaping to his feet and glaring at the pair of blondes that were across from him. Both looked at him like he was insane, and the other students were looking on, trying not to laugh. What is your problem, Shika? Ino asked as she was leaning against Naruto. My problem. Shika's raised voice calmed as he slowed his breathing. What's the matter, Shikamaru? Iruka asked. He had a clue, but he wasn't going to call them on it. Sigh, troublesome. Shikamaru sat back down and put his head down, his eyes watching Ino. Clearing his throat, Iruka continued. Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno. Here Iruka paused, expecting a reaction, but Sakura blinked and looked up, hearing her name. He saw she was lost in thought. And Shikamaru Nara. Your Jonin sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Great. A useless girl and a lazy bum. Sasuke gripped. Snap. Something impacted on the back of his head and his face slammed into the desk. Ow, he said, rubbing his nose as he turned to glare. His eyes narrowed as they landed on the pair of blondes in the back that looked so innocent that they had halos above their heads. Team 8 is Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame and Hinata Hyuga. Your Jonin sensei Kurenai Yuhi. Hinata seemed to deflate at not being teamed with the whiskered blonde. Team 9 from last year is still in circulation, so that leaves Team 10. Iruka looked at it and sighed. Team 10 is Ino and Naruto Uzumaki, and your sensei will be. Naruto groaned as a smoke bomb went off, and it soon revealed the mesh-wearing Anko, who was wearing a blood-red skirt slit up the side, a tube top under the mesh, and her favorite trench coat. She was chewing on a dango stick as she looked at the gathered genin. Ino meanwhile was laughing at the looks the boys were giving Anko, and the girls with their jealous looks at her figure. And if I wasn't totally hetero, I'd do her. Ino thought as she elbowed her husband, who shook his head. I swear, Haim, I had nothing to do with this. Anko heard him and grinned. Ah, but Whiskers, last night was so special. I told the Hokage that I just had to have more of you, and I brought pictures. Naruto groaned as his head thumped onto the desk in front of him. Iruka was shocked at what he was hearing. Anko, you're early, said John and snorted. Afternoon. I'm putting Whisker Boy through his paces, and I might as well see what the missus can do as well with that sweet little body of hers. Ino laughed outright as several of the guys blew back with nosebleeds, including Iruka. Ino looked to see only 3 males with no reaction. Her loving husband, who shook his head and was asking Kami, why me? Shikamaru, who had gone back to sleep. And last was the Uchiha, who was glaring at Naruto. It's official, the bastard is gay. Ino thought. Then, getting a wicked idea, she sprung her surprise. Stop looking at my husband like that, Uchiha. I don't share. Then she looked at Anko and winked. Well, maybe with Anko sensei. Iruka, who had been getting to his feet with tissue crammed in his nose, blew back again. Anko laughed that deep throaty laugh. You'll do, girly. Grab the man meat and let's go. Anko leapt out the window, and the Uzumakis followed, Ino pausing long enough to look at the others. Enjoy, folks. I know I will. And she leapt. Sakura was dazed with the mental images that were now etched in her mind, and she was forming a thought to talk with her female friend. Hinata next to Shino twiddled her fingers together. Shino-kun, tell me I'm pretty. The Aburame in his emotionless voice repeated. You're very pretty, Hinata. She sighed. Gee, thanks, I'd get more warmth from an ice cube. She muttered, her Byakugan eyes finally losing the blondes as they moved out of her range. Iruka from his place on the floor moaned. Class dismissed. Be back at 1 to meet your senseis. He groaned and his head thudded against the ground. Training ground 44. That was mean, Anko-chan. Naruto said to his friend, who shrugged and took a bite out of a fresh dango stick. I don't care who you are. That was funny back there. Who knew Iruka was a pervert? Anko said. Both Ino and Naruto raised their hands and Anko quirked an eyebrow. Really? Both blondes nodded. Wonder what he's like in the sack. She muttered. Naruto fought to share that info as Anko from his past future self had shared that one night of drunken play that resulted in Tsunade banning them from being armed in a bar. So, what are we going to be doing, sensei? Naruto stressed her title and she mocked pouted. Well, we sure as shit ain't doing D-rank missions. No way. So, we'll do a couple of C-rank. I'm sure the 2 of you don't need to go over the basics. And the best teamwork develops in the field. Both blondes nodded. They knew how the other fought, and their knowledge of Anko from their past future selves gave them a clue about her. Now, we'll still work with the runt as we planned, Anko said to Naruto, who grinned. I've also decided that on-sea missions are higher, we'll team with one of the other teams, but knowing their senseis they won't get those for a bit of time, so we'll be the experienced unit. No bell test or some such shit? Naruto asked. Anko snorted. You want to do it? Not really, but we should be fair, Naruto said. Anko got a wicked look on her face as she pulled out an envelope and stuffed it in the front of her tube top. That's your bell. You have until 1 p.m. to get it. Ino glared at her husband. Remind me why I allow you to remain friends with her. Anko pouted and Naruto sighed. Because she's got a wicked sense of humor and she's a good and loyal friend. Ino sighed now. That and he thinks I'm pretty. Naruto groaned and went into his attack. What's in the envelope, Anko-chan? He asked. Why? Pictures from your adventure last night. I must say, Gaki, I'm jealous. Ino hearing this snarled and attacked. Anko laughed. I was thinking of offering them to your dad for payment. Anko blocked as the blondes attacked together, and Anko realized she might have pushed the wrong button. Anko lay in the shade of the tree and groaned. She looked at the replacement shirt Ino had gotten her. I hate pink, she muttered. The blondes had gotten the envelope, and her mesh top and tube top were obliterated in their efforts. She looked at the pair of blondes resting against another tree. She smiled as they looked over the photos. Every so often one or the other would whisper and get a smile, and or they would both giggle. Newlyweds, she muttered. You have no one to blame but yourself, Anko-chan. Naruto said. Yeah. Figures I get the two students who can be worse than me at being exhibitionists. We're not, Ino said with a grin that wasn't fooling anyone. Yeah, and you don't ride him like, Anko started to say. Here comes Ko, Naruto said, breaking the discussion off before it got out of hand. Bro, Konohamaru said, arriving. Hey Ko, this is Ino, my wife, he said to the younger boy, who got a wide-eyed look at the word wife. Hello Konohamaru. Naruto's told me about you, Ino said as she slipped the photos away. The last thing she wanted to do was corrupt the Hokage's grandson more than her husband and his friend did. She shot their sensei a look and Anko was already on her feet. Okay kiddo, you know what to do, start stretching and then laps. Ko nodded and rushed off. You two really are getting him in shape, Ino said, surprised. I thought you just taught him. Well, Naruto grinned. Nah. Once I gave him over to Anko-chan's tender mercies, we came up with a whole new training method. Ko's going to be the best damn genin ever by the time he graduates. Hokage for sure. Ino smiled and kissed her husband's cheek. Want to join him? Naruto asked. We can let Anko recover from the beating we gave her. Oi, you didn't beat me, I allowed you to take the photos. Naruto grinned. Sure you did. He held up a bit of fabric. Wonder if Ko would like a headband. Anko realized it was her tube top and rushed after the laughing blondes who passed Konohamaru. Man, adults are weird, he said as he finished his stretches and then began his run. Sakura looked around after being dismissed, but couldn't find Ino anywhere. I hope that crazy woman didn't do anything to him, them. She corrected. She had seen Sasuke during the break, but she sighed and walked away. She kept repeating what Ino had said, and the more she watched the Uchiha, she realized how true Ino was. I ruined a friendship for him and he's so cold. She'd gone home and her mom was cleaning the house. Hey mom. Sakura dear, you're home early. Is everything okay? Yeah, no, kind of, sigh, I'm not sure anymore mom. Sakura said, sitting at the table and pulling an apple from the bowl. She turned it over in her hands. What's the matter dear? I think that I've messed up my life and I'm not sure what I want anymore. What do you mean sweetie? Sakura explained, an embarrassed blush on her face about yesterday's reaction and this morning's. She told her mom about confronting Ino and the blonde's words. And I really looked at Sasuke mom. I thought about what Ino had said and. You're confused. More than that, I think I'm lusting after my best friend's husband now that he looks hot. Sakura's mom laughed at this. Oh sweetie. That isn't the end of the world. What would be the end of the world is if you actually tried something, because I believe Ino as she is now would destroy you. Sakura sulked as her mom laughed. Invite the Uzumakis over sometime this week dear. And really, talk to Ino. It seems she knows you very well. Sakura sighed as she bit into the apple. Yeah, and she'll kill me for wanting to find out what her husband's arms feel like wrapped around me. I hate you. Konohamaru panted as the sadistic bastards stood around him grinning. Ino was leaning against Naruto. Hey, you're the one who shot off his big mouth. Did you really think we wouldn't retaliate? Konohamaru for his part gave her a gesture that he'd seen Anko perform. Naruto laughed. Don't change, Ko. Hate you too. Anko sipped her water. Come on, runt. It was only 5 miles. Just a good stretch of the legs. Ko for his part was too busy getting air into his lungs and trying to keep everything he ate in his stomach to respond. We might have been a bit too hard on him, Anko-sensei. Naruto said. During the run, the Uzumakis had decided that during training times Anko would be called sensei, despite her protests. Of course, she also agreed to be called sadistic bitch as well. Naruto thought as he cracked his neck. Meh, no pain, no gain. Anko said. Besides, he'll thank us later for this when we add weights. Konohamaru collapsed fully to the ground hearing this. Seriously, I think we should. When Konohamaru is present, let him go for now at 2 miles. Ino said, taking pity on the younger boy. Thanks, you're not a hag after all. The boy said. Ino's eye twitched at the hag comment. Second thought, 5 miles is just a good start as well. You suck. Ko muttered. Naruto pulled out his pocket watch. I think we can stop here. Ino looked and nodded. Mom's making casserole tonight. Anko sighed. Well, I guess we'll continue tomorrow. Meet here at 7, and we'll train until 9 and then get AC rank. Remember to pack for out of the village. She looked at Konohamaru. Keep at it, runt. We'll likely be gone tomorrow, so continue the routine I showed you for when we're gone and run 2 miles and do some stretches. Ko grunted. Anko walked away. Naruto and Ino shared a look. Hey, Anko-chan. The blonde called out. What? You want to join us for dinner? Izumi-ka-san makes enough to feed a family of 6 Akamikis. Ino nodded. Besides, you can help tease daddy. Naruto groaned at this. Bro. The blonde looked at Ko, who had his head turned. Yeah, Ko. You weren't kidding. Becoming Hokage is hard work. Naruto smiled. The 3 dropped Konohamaru off at his home. His mother sighed seeing his condition and thanked them. The 3 were walking the streets, Anko chewing a dango skewer. So, you going to tell us what you did to get to be our sensei? Naruto asked. And did it involve giving Oji-san a heart attack? Anko smiled. Nothing really. I might have burst into his office and said I wanted a genin team. She mock pouted. He laughed and asked for the rest of the joke. When I told him I wasn't kidding, he thought someone was under a henge and tried several times to dispel it. Naruto snickered picturing this. Then he thought I was drugged and called for Ibiki, who then decided I was someone in disguise and tried to take me to the interrogation room. Ino started to laugh as they pictured this. Naruto shook his head. So, what convinced him you were in, well, your normal state of mind? Anko gave him the finger. Not telling. But if Ibiki crosses the street when he sees me, it wasn't my fault and I was forced to do what I did. Oh, now I am curious. Ino said. Let's go find Ibiki. Don't we have a dinner with your folks? Anko asked. Ino mock pouts. But I want to see what could possibly freak out Ibiki so bad he would. She stopped seeing Naruto's thoughtful look. You know. Oh, maybe, but I think I made a vow not to ever tell. He said, scratching his chin. Poop. Anko had a great time eating with the Yamanakas and Uzumakis. Izumi told her to come back often, and Inoichi twitched every time the 2 younger blondes and the snake Jonin got close. Must have been that whispered threesome. Ino thought as she and Naruto bid a fond night to their sensei and friend. Ino laughed as she watched her father watch her husband. Naruto being who he was offered to help Izumi with the dishes. Ino looked on, and despite her past life she was still envious of her husband's home skills more than his ninja abilities. HMF. I mean, so what if can't cook, or so, or, Saru thankfully took after his father. Something wrong, princess? Possibly regretting something? Inoichi asked with a hint of hope. No, daddy. Wishful thinking. Ino said, shooting her father a look, which he ignored. About what, princess? He asked. Ino waited until he was sipping his sake when she said, children. Ino had to admit, the spray got some good distance and the sputtering and choking was something to see as her father tried to turn purple and pale at the same time. I mean, Naruto-kun has all these domestic skills, and I can't boil water without it blowing up. Ino said with a hint of remorse. I mean, yeah, I can reheat things and use the microwave to nuke them, but Naruto is good in the kitchen. No, he's a god in the kitchen. She recalled one time in their past future when Naruto had spent his morning off making her a special lunch with all her favorites, and then feeding it to her. And then we made love all night, Ino thought with a perverted giggle. Stop thinking those thoughts, princess. Inoichi said with a strangled voice. What thoughts, daddy? Ino said with a grin. Her mother and Naruto were listening. She could tell as they were doing the same dishes still. Naruto's hands in the soapy water stilled, and Izumi was drying the same plate over and over. Princess, please. You mean the thoughts of children. Ino smiled as she thought of Saru. A couple more years, baby. She mentally promised. Or the thoughts of practicing making babies in the kitchen on the table. Inoichi was out the back door like he was fired from a cannon. Izumi was looking at her daughter with a raised eyebrow. What? Ino asked. Ino dear, I don't mind you and your husband experimenting new things. But for your father's sanity, in this house, keep it in the bedroom, or the bathroom with the door locked. Naruto snorted. Oh, don't worry, Naruto dear, I had a long talk with Inoichi about his behavior last night. He won't be breaking down any more doors in this house. Naruto and Ino shared a look, and Izumi sighed. Oh, go on you two. She said as Naruto dried his hands and Ino grabbed his shirt and pulled him after her. Izumi smiled as she heard the new door to the couple's bedroom close. She smiled as she went to finish the dishes. Inoichi was walking in again when he heard from upstairs, "Uyyssssssss." Izumi smiled as her husband went back outside. She heard his yell of, "Close the damn window." And smiled. Yes, they will make some beautiful babies. She hummed with the thought of grandchildren. 2 days later, Team 10 got their C-rank mission. All 3 of them snorted when they heard it was a simple courier mission to the Hidden Vale. Sadly, the bandits didn't agree, but for the 3 shinobi, they were far too easy. Anko teased the married couple, who teased right back. Naruto showed her a picture of her wearing the pink shirt and told her that it would be posted all over Konoha. Bastard, was her response. The 3 were on their way back from Vale when they were attacked again by said bandits who had a grudge. Naruto showed them Konoha's secret technique, while Ino and Anko shook their heads. What? We all know a certain one-eyed Jonin who uses it. He said as they left the beaten and battered bandits. They didn't kill them as Anko said. Good highway bandits are hard to come by, and who knows, we might meet them again and have a nice, friendly, fight again. Several of the bandits went to nearby villages and surrendered to the local law. Upon returning to Konoha, they resumed the schedule of training with Konohamaru. Izumi learned of their plans to move out and put her foot down. But Mom, Ino said at the table. But nothing. You and Naruto will put your pay aside. Why get an apartment when you have perfectly good room here? Inoichi didn't agree as he looked at the blonde male across from him. Naruto kept his eyes firmly on Izumi and let his wife do the talking. Yeah, well, what about privacy? Or the fact Daddy keeps trying to kill or castrate my husband? Your father is just playing dear. Izumi said. Shikaku and Chozu have been busy and he's looking for a new friend as all. Naruto snorted at this. Ino shot him a look. Mom, he tried to electrocute Naruto in the shower. He said it was a faulty wire. He was holding the cable while wearing rubber gloves. Ino fired back. Then she decided to play the trump card. The doctor says Naruto might never be able to have children because of it. She said with a sniffle. Izumi rounded on her husband, who managed to make a squeaking sound before he was pummeled. Ino led Naruto to their bedroom and had 6 hours of loud. Downstairs, Izumi glared at her husband, who could only twitch and whine. Weeks passed with the same routine. Every few days they would take a C-rank mission that would be delivery of documents, escort mission, or even low-level bandit elimination assignments. They would train with Konohamaru, who was getting better. Naruto smiled when Ko told him how he forced his grandfather into teaching him monkey fist style. Hey, Ko used the sexy jutsu, and the old man fell for it. Thus far their contact with the other genin teams was non-existent. They hadn't seen Sakura for several days as both blondes knew Kakashi's style of showing up late, and doing D-rank missions until sunset. Maybe we could help out forehead. I mean, the Chunin exams are coming up. Ino reminded her husband as they cuddled on the roof of her parents' house watching the stars. Naruto said. And I kinda feel sorry for Shika being on the same team with the emo Tem. Ino said. I suppose we could get Anko to take us there under the pretext of team bonding. Naruto said. I know the Tem will demand a fight. Ino smiled. Then I'll fight him and put him in his place. Naruto kissed her cheek. Tem doesn't get his Sharingan until they get to wave. But with the subtle changes already, you think there will be a ripple effect? Ino asked. Kyuubi in their talk had warned the pair of consequences. They saw that when Choji never became a ninja, Naruto and Ino were a team now, and Naruto had to admit, with all his training, Konohamaru had yet to meet Udon and Moegi, and that worried him a bit. Naruto. Ino said softly. What Hime? He asked as he held her. Would you be upset if I said I wanted to have a baby next year after our 17th birthdays? Naruto squeezed her. I can never be mad at you, love. But what brought this on? I thought we were going to wait until we were 18 and hopefully had things taken care of. Ino nodded. I miss Suru. I mean, yeah, he was. She looked at him and he understood. I understand, love. He kissed her forehead then smirked. Are you sure it's not your mom saying, give me grandbabies? Ino snorted and laughed. Mom's just, Mom. She's so understanding of all of this. I don't know if I could be so calm about it all. I mean, one morning my daughter's 13 and Uchiha obsessed, then by afternoon she's hooked up with the village's dirty little secret and married. Ino smirked as she called him the village's little secret. I still say you scared the crap out of my younger self, Ino-chan. Naruto said playfully. I could have handled it better. I know. She sighed as they both looked up at the stars. The Chunin exams are when everything is going to really change. Naruto nodded as he gave her a light squeeze. I spoke with Oji-san earlier. Ino nodded. Since their marriage, Naruto would spend a couple hours late at night talking with the third Hokage. He's recalling Ero Sanin and Ba-chan. He's also got Kabuto under surveillance. Good. That dirty little weasel is the cause of a lot of trouble. Ino said. I've tried to recall all the spies and who was working for who, but, Naruto shrugged, and Ino knew it was most because her husband hadn't really paid too much attention when he was younger in his past future. We'll get them all this time. Ino said. If the Tem does pull away from the village again, there won't be a hesitation this time, love. Naruto said. We weren't teammates this time, and I damn sure ain't going to let him get power from that seal. Ino agreed. What does Kyuubi say? She wants to be summoned to eat the bastard, the first sign of trouble. Ino smiled. How is she doing anyways? Naruto got a vacant look then shook his head. She's sleeping a lot. I think whatever she's been doing to my coils has been exhausting her. Of course, last time she had 20-some years before she did anything like this the last time. Ino nodded. Daddy's been showing me the clan scrolls. He says that since I'm his only child, I will get the Yamanaka clan scrolls. Naruto brushed her cheek. It won't happen this time, Hime. If I have to, no more depressing talk tonight. Ino said, cutting him off. I've been thinking. Oh, you didn't strain yourself too much, did you, love? Ino slapped his chest. Asshole. Seriously. She told him her idea and Naruto smiled. Have I told you how much I love you? Ino smiled as they kissed under the stars. Naruto sat across from his father-in-law who was shooting him looks while Izumi's back was turned. I got up early for this. After 30 years I should know better. Naruto berated himself. So, Naruto dear, how are missions with Anko going? Izumi asked, her back still to the table. Naruto knew he was going to pay for the stunts his wife and friend were pulling. Inoichi's left eye twitched hard. We're doing fine, Mrs. Yaman. I've told you before to call me Mom. Izumi said. Sorry. Anko figures we could ace the Chunin exams as we are right now. When we're not on missions, we've been tutoring Konohamaru. The Hokage's grandson. Izumi asked. Yeah, he's kind of adopted me as a big brother. Naruto said as he sipped his orange juice. Ino's still asleep. Izumi asked and Naruto heard the red alert in his head was screaming louder than Iruka with his big head jutsu and he heard Inoichi's hand tighten around the edges of his paper. Yeah, thought it would be good for her to have a little bit of sleep in with as hard as we've worked. Naruto said. Inoichi's muttered. Perhaps if you stopped violating my daughter every night she wouldn't be so tired. Was loud enough that he just managed to duck the spatula thrown by Izumi. It impacted with the wall where it warbled a bit after being embedded. Naruto licked his suddenly dry lips and cursed his stupidity for coming down without Ino. Oh, I forgot to mention. Izumi said, going back to cooking with a new spatula that Naruto never saw her get. Sakura stopped by the other day, she wanted to talk with you. With me? Naruto asked, confused. A growl from Inoichi had him wondering if he could pull a substitution with the sofa fast enough. Yes, she seemed uncertain, I guess, she kept stuttering. Izumi continued. Sakura. Stutter. Now Naruto was confused. Hinata stutters. Sakura yells. What the hell? Be a dear and go wake Ino. Breakfast is almost ready, Izumi said, and Naruto bolted while doing his best to avoid the laser beam-like death glare from Inoichi. Naruto slipped into their bedroom and stopped, a smile touching his lips as he saw Ino sprawled across the bed, a cute snore issuing from her lips. He studied her a moment, her hair fanned out around her head like a halo, and he had the urge to crawl back in next to her and watch her. Kneeling by the edge of the bed, he gently took her hand. Inohime, it's time to wake up, love. She made a mewling sound and rolled onto her side. Come on, love. Your mom has breakfast nearly ready, and your dad's ready to offer me up to whatever kami he can think of for defiling you nightly. A soft smile formed, and he watched as Ino slowly opened her eyes. Hey, she said softly, her eyes watering slightly. He noticed the look in her eyes and he froze. He realized what today was the minute a tear slipped from her eyes. Oh, love, he said softly. It's not fair, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I know, Haim. He slipped onto the bed and pulled her onto his lap, her head resting on his shoulder. Today, Ino began, but choked up. Naruto held her while she silently cried into his shoulder. Naruto slowly rubbed circles across her back, feeling helpless. It will be all right, love, he said softly. Suru, Ino said with a sniffle. At this moment in time, Naruto knew that if he saw Kabuto or Sasuke, he'd kill them without a second thought or a moment of regret. 1,000 years of death with a wind Rasengan would be too merciful, and too quick. He thought. I miss him so much. Ino said. We don't have anything of him with us. We have our memories, and in a year or two, we'll have our boy back. Naruto said, holding his wife. He didn't think about it, and now he knew why he woke up early, what he'd forgotten. Today had been their son's birthday, not the year, but the day, and he felt like a heel. They sat there for several minutes, Naruto rocking his wife and promising it would be okay and their son would be born and things would be different this time around. Knock, knock. The door opened and Izumi stuck her head in. Hey, you two. Break, what's wrong? She asked, seeing her daughter upset and sitting on her son-in-law's lap. The pair of blondes shared a thought. Shit. Izumi came into the room and sat down next to the pair. What's the matter, sweetie? She asked, concern in her eyes. Ino thought quickly. Nothing, mom. Just cramps and I'm feeling. Izumi smiled. I'll make you some of your grandmother's tea, dear. She patted her daughter's knee. She smiled at Naruto. And you? Trying to comfort her. Sigh, I wish Inoichi would hold me when I feel miserable during this time. But he vanishes on missions. She told them take their time, she'd keep the food warm and left. The pair waited. That was. Yeah. Naruto agreed with his wife. He waited, then asked, you're not really? No. You know my cycle, she said and smiled, seeing him flinch. And don't think I don't remember your antics during the hyper chamber, how you managed to be on the other end of the training field, or the chocolate that I found nearby. Naruto shrugged. It's male survival, dear. I can't help, I have 30 years of memories in my head. Ino kissed his cheek. Let's go to breakfast. Grandma's tea sounds lovely right now. Naruto agreed. He knew that once they left the house, they would go somewhere and cry, and hold a private celebration for their son to be born. Sakura sighed as Kakashi was once again late. She wondered what Ino and Naruto were doing. She missed the blondes, who were always busy, either on missions with that psychotic sensei of theirs, or training heavily. She'd stopped by the other day when she saw their sensei sitting at the bar on her way home, but Ino's mom said the pair were out for the night. Shikamaru's mentioned he's spoken with them. Maybe I should ask him. Her green eyes landed on her teammate who was stretched out under a tree. He's so lazy. she thought. Her eyes went to Sasuke and sighed. Ever since her talk with Ino, she'd come to realize the shortcomings of the last Uchiha, and his attitudes during training and missions just nailed it home. What I ever saw in him, hell even Choji was better than him. She'd seen the Akamaiki several times around the village and he hung around Shikamaru. The heavy-set teen was enjoying his time in the militia. He did a few patrols, or guarded areas several times a week, and the rest of the time he worked at his family diner. Shaking her head, she looked at Shikamaru. He'd helped her several times since they became teammates. Despite his lack of motivation, Sakura had to admit he surprised her several times. You're thinking too loud, Shika said. What? Sakura stuttered in surprise. Sigh, troublesome. He muttered and sat up. What's bothering you? He asked. What do you mean? She asked. You're moping around, and it's not over, Sasuke. In fact, since team placements, you've done 100% turnaround. Sakura remembered Ino saying how smart Shikamaru was, and how observant. I had a talk with Ino the day before team placements. I did some real thinking. She shot a look where the Uchiha was brooding. I finally realized that Sasuke isn't someone who can love others. He's selfish, self-centered, and I had created a fantasy that no living person could live up to. Except Naruto-kun. Shut up. He's married. Sakura snarked to her inner self. And you're brooding because? Shikamaru asked. I don't know. Well, I do. I mean, I've been trying to get in touch with Ino, but they're never home. Shikamaru snickered at this, and at Sakura's look he explained. Naruto fears his father-in-law. Sakura raised an eyebrow, and Shikamaru chuckled. Inoichi keeps threatening him for, in his words, defiling his daughter, ignoring the fact that Ino is Naruto's wife. Sakura's brain flashed a mental image of a sweating Naruto, and she managed to turn her head away and wipe away the blood as Shikamaru had leaned back against the tree trunk, missing her actions. I really need to get a life, she thought. I'm perving on my best friend's husband. Another mental image of her with her legs wrapped around Naruto's waist. Standing up suddenly, she yelled over her shoulder to Shikamaru. If that baka of a sensei shows up, tell him I went to the ladies' room. Shikamaru sighed. Troublesome, he muttered as he looked up at the passing clouds and knowing he could be doing other less troublesome thing on a day like this. Naruto and Ino Uzumaki sat atop the Hokage monument, on the head of the fourth Hokage. A blanket under them, and before them was a small cake with white frosting and in orange letters, Happy Birthday Saru. Our son will be born, and this time there will be no traitorous Uchiha, no Kabuto, Orochimaru or Akatsuki. Naruto held his wife to his chest. I miss him so much, but today hit me. Ino said. I woke up before the sun even rose and I made my way to the kitchen to make him his birthday breakfast. I stopped before I got to the bottom step, turned around and made it back to bed with you before mom woke up. Naruto hugged her a bit tighter. Winter solstice will be hard as well, he whispered. I remember his first one, Naruto said, his voice feeling thick. Hey, he always was a tornado when it came to opening his presents. Ino laughed a little. Remember his second birthday? Both blondes laughed. He obliterated that cake, Naruto said fondly. He ate like you used to. He's definitely your son, Ino said with a fond smile. And he will be again, love. And just think, we know what we're doing this time, Naruto said. Ino leaned forward and with a cadence spark jutsu lit the candles. I'm going to have to give birth, I'll be fat blimp. Everyone will think I'm ugly. Naruto hugged her tighter. People are blind if they ever think of you as ugly, my love, and you will be my beautiful fat blimp. Ino laughed. Bastard. Insult me and make me feel loved at the same time. She slapped his forearm around her waist. She got a look in her eyes as she turned around and smiled. But, you're sweet, she said and kissed him. They might have 2 years before they had their sweet little boy, but they would celebrate the time until his arrival with making happy memories and celebrating what was, had been and what will be. The cake sat off to the side, the candles slowly melting as two blondes practiced making fond memories.